Welcome to Crimeycade. I'm back after, last week. Gosh, it's been 2 weeks. Back from T20, and boy, and back from anniversary at Galvin Ghost Arcade, and we have a new Gamer of the Year. We'll get to that in a second. And I'm about to be joined by the person the being who usually crashes my stream, and he's about to crash it once again because that's what he does. Well, you want in this? Come on up. This little furball. Ugh. This furball wants his screen time, and he always wants his screen time because he thinks he's the real star of the show. Don't you? Anyway, well, last week, the T20, 2 weeks ago, the T20 roundtable countdown to anniversary, right before the big grand day all of arcade gaming, the T20 tournament. We had, several people in here. Brandon Travis, James White, Claudio Capello, Norbert Vale, Ed Politic. Gosh, who else do we have? We had a few more people, and I can't remember everybody. But we had about, I think, 6, 7, 8 people in. So it was a good 3-hour stream. Quite fun, and hope to do it again sometime on another topic. And I finally got to 100 followers. So live streaming on Facebook is unlocked. The next time I do it, I have to create an extra branch for StreamYard to send video over to Facebook. I did a test stream, last weekend. It was not perfect, so you'll have to give it a few tweaks before I incorporate that. Besides Twitch. And the Gamer of the Year. Our new Gamer of the Year is Benjamin Falls. This prediction here, I said the last time I did a stream, I had Ben Falls at 15%. That, of course, was before T20. So the night before, anniversary with T20 in the books. Zerf's winning again. Shocker. The odds kind of shifted. Andrew Owasco decided to skip T20 this year, and that hurt him. I also believe that Ben Falls cleared the most challenge cards. I think Doc Mack alluded to that, so 40% chance, and he was the winner of the Gamer of the Year. He has the belt, the trophy, the plaque, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of this title belt than we've seen in the last couple of years. And let's see, 2 weeks from now, Headless Horseman has the Third Strike tournament. Saturday, August 23rd, 3 p.m., $25 to enter. The interim title will be on the line for that event. The youngest player ever will be defending the interim belt at the Third Strike tournament at the Headless Horseman Arcade up in Wheeling. Then the next day, the Power Stone, JP Pitt's favorite tournament, will be at the Goblin Ghost Arcade starting at 3 o'clock. Will JP Pitts enter? Well, he better be in this. He better be in the Power Stone tournament because, he wants to redeem himself after Aiden Cordova upset him last year. Yes, JP Pitts thinks he's the juggernaut of Power Stone, but somebody proved that they were a little bit better. We'll get to this on the backside. I am considering going to this event, but I don't want to keep my guest waiting. So, to introduce my next guest, my new guest, and I haven't talked to him for over 30 years. It's been that long since the Nintendo Campus Challenge. In fact, the last time I did talk to him happened to be at the very last Chicago Summer Consumer Electronics Show. So here's the promo video, and let's get into it.
1991, the year that Nintendo excitement went to college. Last year, the Nintendo Campus Challenge brought the fun and the excitement of high-intensity video game competition to 55 college campuses across the United States and to Daytona Beach, Florida for 3 weeks during spring break. Over 600,000 people sampled Nintendo's best new video games, as well as tested games unreleased to the public to get a taste of exciting new games to come. More than 30,000 competitors tested their game skills against fellow students, competing for fabulous prizes before millions of spectators. Winning students from campuses across the country won an all-expense trip to the finals, held at Walt Disney World in Orlando. The grand prize winner drove off in a new Geo Storm, with runners-up receiving scholarships. For 1992, the Nintendo Campus Challenge is back, and better than ever, packing the power of new Super NES competition. The 1992 Nintendo Campus Challenge will determine the college valedictorian of video game play, and bring college students a fun-filled study break. 12 students will compete simultaneously in 6-minute rounds on a specially designed cartridge containing 3 of the hottest new Super Nintendo Entertainment System games: Super Mario World, F-Zero, and Pilot Wings. Students can also experience the exciting world of 16-bit Super Nintendo Entertainment System games in Power Dome, a self-inflating building that houses 32 game systems and 64 full-color monitors. While you're there, try out the new Super Scope and match your skills against an army of flying battleships. There's more. 24 Game Boy game stations are positioned around the Power Dome area, creating even more opportunities to sample the world of Nintendo. At each Nintendo Campus Challenge, the overall winner will receive a Super Nintendo Entertainment System and game library. Each first place man and woman wins $100. Each second place man and woman wins $75. Each third place man and woman wins $50. And the grand prize winner at your campus will have their name entered into a sweepstakes, where the grand prize winners from 35 other schools will be looking forward to one grand prize of $10,000 in cash, a second prize of $5,000, and 5 third prizes of $1,000 each. In the end, 1 in 5 grand prize entrants will be a winner. 7 in 35 will win in excess of $1,000. The Nintendo Campus Challenge is the kind of exciting all-American action today's young people enjoy.
All right. Pretty neat. I think it's great.
Stupendous. Excellent.
And there are other benefits as well. The Nintendo Campus Challenge hires student workers at each school, providing valuable real-life experience in the exciting field of national event marketing. So turn up the power. Be a part of the Nintendo Campus Challenge. Bring the excitement and the action of Nintendo to your campus.
And introducing the man who made all this happen. I believe he made all this happen.
Yeah.
Blaine Phelps,
Hey,
welcome.
thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. I have not seen that video in 30 plus years since I approved it to go out. Wow.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I don't look for myself for much Nintendo stuff. My life is, it's, wow, memories. Amazing. It's great to be here.
So the catalyst for me searching for you to get on the podcast, I was contacted by a researcher out of North Dakota University, and he's doing a research on the early days of esports.
Okay.
And so kind of jogged my memory a bit because, I had material. Wow. All the stuff from the Nintendo Campus Challenge I kept.
Right.
I did not throw anything. I think the only thing that got thrown away was the key. Yeah, the jacket.
So there were 8 of these made. This is what the crew wore. And I got one. And This is the only one I know that's left.
That's
Not to interrupt you, I apologize. But the thing, the unique one, this is unique because this is every promotion that I ever put together. Superpower, 92, Star Fox weekend. I had all the embroideries placed into the jacket of every promotion that I ran. But yeah, I just wanted to show that off real fast, just so that I still have that. That's the only thing I have of Nintendo's, pretty much, from those days.
Now, where are you now?
I'm in Virginia.
You're in Virginia, but you
Nope.
don't work for Nintendo. You
Nope.
do something completely different.
I do. I do.
And you've done quite a bit of things. I looked at your let me throw
Profile.
this up here. Yes.
Yeah, my LinkedIn. Yeah. Yeah, I've been around. I've been around a lot. I have been blessed. I've been blessed with my career. So we can talk about whatever you'd like. I don't mind talking about Nintendo, or we can talk about my career, all the different things that I've done living overseas. I'll go whichever direction you want to. And I did jump in there to interrupt you when you started with the campus challenge. We can talk about that. I mean, there are some great memories out of there, like that inflatable tent, that the largest in this world at the time. And I came up with that. And I was at a restaurant in Redmond, Washington, where Nintendo is, and they had paper. What do you call them? Tabletops that eat, and then, they just rip up the paper and throw it away. And they give you crayons. And I was out with my girlfriend at the time, and I was given the edict of how are we going to promote the new Super NES. Mm-hmm. And so I started drawing on this paper tabletop, and it was a round to begin with. I was going to do a round and have people, the students and everyone, walk in into a circle, and they would wait and watch the other kids play, and then they would eventually get to start playing. And I had drawn it all out, and I came in the next day to the office and laid it out for my bosses and said, this is what I want to build. I think this is how we show it off to the college kids because they're going to be impressed. I said I want smoke, and I want lasers, and the best music at the time. And so that's what you saw, like us old people, but that's what we experienced in the 90s, was going into that tent. I very much wanted it Star Trek-like, where the doors would, swoosh open, and then the smoke would come out, and you'd walk in, lasers and stuff, and see all the other kids playing, until you could eventually get to playing. And so when we built that, it cost, that tent was around $900,000 to build at the time, which is probably $2 or $3 million today. The overall cost, I pulled out my old stats of all the events that I did, and that event cost us $4.6 million to do the campus challenge.
Wow.
And that was
this gentleman wants that jacket.
Oh, so you and I spoke about Andy Cunningham, I think out of Indiana. I had sold him. I sold him all my Nintendo stuff because he has that huge museum and stuff that he wants to show off everything. And he asked me for the jacket, and I'm willing to sell the jacket, but for $10,000. And so if you want it, contact me. I'll sell it for $10,000. I don't care, but I know it's so unique. It's the only one in the world, and that's why it's just like, you know what? I don't mind giving it up, but my wife would love to go on a cruise, so that's why it's so much.
Well, the Mega Retro Man, if you did not know, is Paul Tessie, and he is the world record holder of all the, I believe, all three.
For the competition cartridges?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the original one, the 91 Campus Challenge, he crossed 33 million, which wasn't even thought of back 30 years ago.
Yeah, but I'm going to throw a caveat in here, is that you can go into those and change how it scores. Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
What happened? All right, so I'm going to keep. All right, something launched in my computer. Is that you can go in and change the time limits, you can change the scoring and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to throw that caveat. Not saying that he did not do that, or he did do that, but we always would mess with internally with each other and switch all those scores around so that people could get the different scores and stuff like that. Which was the first one? Was that the Ken Griffey Jr., the home runs? We had to hit the most home runs.
That's Powerfest 94.
Was that Ken Griffey? Okay.
So the Campus Challenge would be the one with Super Mario 3, Pinbot, and Dr. Mario.
Okay.
And he played with the same time limit.
Right. Okay. No, I'm not saying he did or he didn't, but okay. What was the other one? I remember all three of these. I had them all, and I sold them all, these cartridges.
Yeah, and I also wish 30 years ago, after winning the Campus Challenge, asked for one of the carts.
Yep. Didn't I give you one? I thought I gave you one. No?
No.
Was that a dick? So
no, I didn't even think about it.
Oh, all right. Because I know someone did, and I gave it to him. I'm like, here, sure. We're not going to use these again.
I wonder who. If you could that be the only surviving cart that exists?
No, there were. We made 20 of each.
Yeah.
And I know of a couple different people that have every single one we've ever built that have a couple different ones of those. So
Okay, so that is not the only one. The one that J.J. Hendricks held in his hand, or had.
I'm sure there's another one. I know there's another one or two or three. Yeah, there has to be. There's so many. So
okay.
yeah.
So that is a revelation that is a revelation.
Yeah.
We're gonna record this.
All right.
We'll remember this.
Yeah. we never asked for them back from the crew. Once we shut down the show, we didn't care. Just throw it on the semi and ship it back to us, and eventually got back to us, and I was responsible for putting it in the warehouse, and I never looked for the games or any of that. It was just, yeah.
Okay, because there was an assumption that they all got destroyed.
No. I was responsible for them all, and I said, guys, keep them if you wanted, ship them back to me. And then I remember getting them not to gameplay counselors, but I gave them to our game testers, because they were the ones responsible for when it was being built and we were making the game cartridges. We had our game testers that were inside the Nintendo facility, and they would sit and play hours and hours to make sure there were no bugs or errors or anything like that. And they would try to cheat and all that kind of stuff, and then they would eventually give them to us. Yes, Mega Retro Man, there are more. Yeah.
And he all right, I'm gonna make sure that's.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the early days.
Sure.
Well, actually, when you started.
All right. So let me typically
ask this question first.
Yep.
So what got you into gaming in general before you worked for Nintendo?
Right. Yeah, I was going to say let's walk through my life, because there's some great stories throughout my life. But we'll get to Nintendo. Then stop me. So as soon as I leave Nintendo, stop me and say, all right, let's back up. So I grew up in Montana. Mm-hmm. And I had a choice of where I wanted to go to college, and I had to go somewhere that was a Christian school. And so I had three choices, which was Spokane, Washington, Gonzaga, Seattle University in Seattle, or Holy Cross in Massachusetts. And so the way I thought of it at the time, now you got to remember this is 83, was that Gonzaga is so close to my parents, they could be there on a Friday night and show up for dinner. I did not want that. Holy Cross was a flight away. So if I got in trouble and went to jail, I would have to wait till Saturday morning, meaning Friday night, or Sunday morning for my parents to come and bail me out. But Seattle was 8 hours away. So I was like, I could last for 8 hours in a jail, and they could come and get me. So I went to Seattle. So that's where I went to college, with Seattle University, went there for 4 years, graduated. During my college career, I became a drug addict and an alcoholic. And so I don't remember my years, because this is very relevant to Nintendo, is that I do not remember my college years, but I did graduate in 4 years with a nice GPA. And so I drove around the country a little bit for 3 months, and it was September. I graduated in June. It was September, and I came back to Seattle, and I started living out of my car. And I was driving down a street in Redmond, Washington, and there in the middle of the road, and it was a 4-lane road, which you could say with a median down the middle. In the middle of the median was a big sign that said, "Play games for a living, Nintendo." And I'm like, I just got a degree. Oh, by the way, let me back up. So in August, I put myself through rehab, and I sobered myself up. So I'm 1 month in sobriety. And so I'm driving down the street, living out of my car, and I was taking showers at the YMCA about every other day, every third day. And I was one of the first day laborers. I would hang at 7-Eleven, and anyone that would hire me, dig a ditch, whatever, just to get some money so I could get some food. So I'm driving back from work. I'm in dirty shirt, dirty jeans. And I stopped at a stoplight, and there was a huge sign in the median that said, "Play games for a living, Nintendo." And I'm like, who the hell is Nintendo? And this is 1987. Zelda had just come out, and so had Super Mario Brothers. But I'm like, I'm not dressed, I'm dirty, I smell, because it was 6 o'clock at night. And so I went to the next stoplight, and I'm going to get a little religious. I'm not that religious of a person, but something entered me and said, turn around and go back and apply at the next light. And I turned around, I went back, and I walk in, and there's 3 people sitting there at these tables going, "Hey, are you here for a job?" I'm like, "Yes." Job do you want?" And I said, "What do you got?" And they're like, "Well, we have a gameplay counselor position, and we have a customer service position." And now this is going to also lead into, Stephen, this is also going to lead into why my career went the way it did. And I said, and I thought in my head, gameplay counselor is not going to get me anywhere in life, because playing a game, but understanding how to talk to a customer, understanding that side of a business, every business has a customer service rep type. And again, I'm 21, recently sober, figuring out my life. And I'm like, I'll become a customer service rep. So I said, all right, when can you start? And I said, can I start tomorrow? And they said, no. I'm like, all right, I'll start on Monday. Great. So I started the next Monday. And at the time, Nintendo was only open 6 to 6, 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came in for training, because it was how to answer a call and kind of stuff like that. I did it at the end of the day, and I stayed till 6 at night. And I just went in the other room and played games. They had a big conference room that's set up with game stations, and that's where the gameplay counselors trained during the day. And I would sit there and play games until they shut down, and then I would go out and sleep in my car. About 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, I was sleeping in my car, and someone was banging on my window. And I'm in the Nintendo parking lot, and I opened the door, and there was one of our vice presidents. He's like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm waiting so I could go into work and train at 8 o'clock, because it was a 1 month long training. And he's like, where do you shower? And I'm like, YMCA. And he's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. I'm not going to give you a home or anything, but here are keys to our bathroom, the executive bathroom, which had showers. So you can shower here every day. I'm like, okay, thank you. His name was Bruce Donaldson. He was a really nice man. And so that got me into the shower. So then speed it up a little bit. I graduated, became a customer service rep. 3 months later, I became a lead. 4 months later, now back then, if you look at pictures of me, I had hair, and I was good looking because I was 22, 21. And they asked me if I would become a public relations spokesperson for the company with a guy named Howard Phillips. Howard and I would tour around the United States, and we would do interviews on MTV, like I interviewed with Pauly Shore, if you remember those, Downtown Julie Brown. I was on Howard Stern, Johnny Carson, ABC, NBC, CBS News, Good Morning America, etc. Howard or I would both do all those all the time, talking about gaming and stuff like that. So that's how I got into gaming. Because no one wanted to interview someone about customer service. They wanted to interview someone about playing games for a living. And so I was not a gameplay counselor, but I would pretend to be. And that's what, and again, if you can't tell, I am somewhat well-spoken. And so that's why they chose me. And so for the next 3 years, as a customer service rep, well, then I became a lead, then I became a supervisor. And then because I was doing so much public relations stuff, they made me a gameplay counselor training supervisor. I trained gameplay counselors as I was doing all the PR stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the original Powerfest and was doing interviews. And that's when I met a guy named Bill White, and he was responsible for putting that first Powerfest together, which a TV movie, not a TV, but a movie was made of with, what's his name?
Fred Savage.
Thank you, yes.
The Wizard.
The Wizard, yes, very good. And so I met Bill White, and I said, Bill, I want to get into marketing. And he said, oh, let's keep talking. And so a month later, he's like, come and work for me in marketing. I said, sure. He's like, you're going to become the assistant promotion manager. I said, all right, what's that mean? He's like, you're going to put on all the Powerfests, all these different events that we have around the United States for Nintendo. I said, great. 3 months later, he quit and went to Sega. And they brought in all these new people. A new vice president, a new director, a new marketing manager, etc. But at that time, I was already embroiled in the Campus Challenge and setting that all up and getting that all made. And we made it right down the street from Nintendo, literally down the hill. There was a guy that built all of our displays. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, he built all the displays that went into Toys R Us stores and Kmart stores. When you went into test a Nintendo at a store, that's what you played on. And he built those displays for all those stores and shipped them out. So we also hired him to build the tent. And again, he didn't make the tent. He hired someone else to do that, but he managed all that. So all those gameplay stations that you saw in the video you just showed were made by this guy. Mm-hmm. And then we bought him and then shipped them all out. He painted our semi-trucks and all that kind of stuff and did all the work on those kind of things. So that got me to where I was now responsible for playing all of these and all these events. Back to your original question of what got me into gaming, I think it was just sitting there. Again, growing up in the 70s and 80s with Atari and stuff, you wanted that. And you had to be a lot of money. My dad did not. He eventually bought us a Pong, and we played a little bit and it was fascinating. But it wasn't until I went to Nintendo and sat there waiting for me to start my shift where I played Zelda and go, this is the greatest game. This is amazing. I hate Super Mario Brothers.
Wow.
I have never finished any Mario game ever. Hate them.
Wow.
I thought they were the stupidest games that jump and hit your head, and make ding, ding, ding. And so, standing there as a PR, as a public relations person, it's like Super Mario Brothers is great. It's an awesome game. It's like I hated it. Zelda, I loved. Always, yes.
The caveat is though, if it wasn't for Super Mario Brothers, we may not have had a resurgence in video gaming at all after the crash.
Right. So I know you want to hear secrets and things, and not necessarily secrets, but things that aren't commonly known. So Nintendo owned Chuck E. Cheese's in Canada, and that's where we did all our game testing. Was we would make a video console of it, and you would go, and the kids would play it in Chuck E. Cheese, and we would watch them play the games, and then that's how we understood if games were good, games were bad. Once Nintendo became well-founded, I think it was 89, I want to say, is we built a facility next to the Nintendo headquarters where we brought kids in behind mirrors we could watch them. But until then, we had to go up into Canada and watch them at Chuck E. Cheese as they played on the Donkey Kong. Perfect example is how we learned about Donkey Kong was there.
I know my hook was Space Invaders.
Right.
Back in, 78? I was only 7 or 8.
See, I loved Asteroids. Which you broke the asteroid in a broken bar more. I don't, yeah. We all wasted a lot of money on those.
Yes. Yeah, so it's like, I saw it. Well, I saw it in the arcade before I saw the home console. But,
right.
Yes. So from there.
So I launched the Campus Challenge. Yep, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just run down. And then I moved on to, I see in 92 we went the military challenge where we went to military bases and set up all different stations. And that was not much money. We did the Superpower Mall Tour. That's where we went into malls and set up in malls in 92. In 93, Star Fox Weekend.
I missed that one, sadly.
Yep. And that was 2,000 retailers where we went and did all these different mall things. And then 94, we did the Powerfest 94. And that one was $7.5 million we spent. We had 720,000 people play the game. We had 6 separate tours traveling. And that finished in SeaWorld, if I remember. And that was televised on Nickelodeon.
It was?
Yep.
I missed it. I didn't know that.
No, yeah. So we had, God, what was his name? He's very famous at the time, red-haired guy that did all the Nickelodeon game shows and stuff like that.
Well, that would have been Mark Summers, but he was not a redhead.
It wasn't Mark Summers. Oh, Lord.
I don't know who it would have been because, he hosted Double Dare, Finders Keepers.
Yeah, he's a Double Dare guy. Is it Mark Summers? No, but he had red hair. Everyone remembered him. Young. He was a little older because he was just leaving. He was a little older. He wasn't 20. He was 28. You follow me? He was ending his Nickelodeon career. But we had an interesting story on that one. So we hired a producer to produce the show. And a producer is someone that sits behind the cameras with a microphone, has all the screens in front of them, and calls. Camera 2, camera 5, whatever. And a director. I'm sorry. So we hired him. We paid him all his money. He quit. He demanded more money 1 hour before we went live. And so our agency that we hired that did all this, they said, no, you're going to get this money. He said, no, and he walked off the show. And so everyone's panicking. We're an hour to go live. Who can do this? I ended up doing it. I became the director, and I directed where the camera shots went, because at that, this is 3 years later than Campus. And we had backgrounds of everyone that would flash up on the TV screen. It's like, here's Blaine Phelps, age 19, with, favorite game, whatever, Ken Griffey Jr., whatever it was, again, whatever we were talking about at the time, what state, that kind of stuff. And so I had to call it, and I had never done that in my life. I called all that, did the show, got back to Nintendo corporate. They gave me an outstanding on my bonus, which bonuses in Nintendo were between 0 and 50% of what you earned in the last 6 months. And so I got a 50%, which outstanding. So I got 50% of what I made in the last month. They gave me the bonus the next day they fired me. And so that was the end of my Nintendo career. So we just walked through the whole Nintendo career. Let's go back into Nintendo and talk some more.
So I think we found our redhead.
It was a guy. It was a man.
Crap. The only other Kirk Fogg and Phil Moore were and Jeff Sutphin
No.
were the other.
No, we know the name. As soon as you say the name, you're going to go, oh my goodness, that's it. We all know this name if you've been in that during that time. But yeah, gosh dang it.
Oh well, don't worry about it. We'll find out later.
Yeah, we'll all remember afterwards.
Let's see.
Not the 90s. This is 94, and this is the end of his career. He was more in the 80s.
Okay. I will throw this out. The person finished second overall. Yeah, I encountered this kid. It was Brandon Veach.
Yeah.
He beat me in Mount Vernon, Illinois, and went all the way. Which
are you one of those people that went event to event until you won?
Till 3 of them. Well, I went to 3 of them. I went to Mattoon, Mount Vernon, and then one other place.
Right.
Champaign-Urbana.
Yeah. I remember one of these events we had one go. He went to 19 of them until he finally won, and his parents flew him each weekend. I'm like, this is.
Well, Brandon Veach also did it.
Yeah.
I don't know about the person who won it overall, and I'd have to look him up because I don't remember off the top of my head.
So I remember the campus challenge was 8 semis, and we would set up Monday, Tuesday, one campus, drive all night, set up that Wednesday, and then have it again Thursday, Friday, and then usually Saturday nights we had off. And I would fly out every other week and spend a week on the road with the guys, and then go back to corporate, report, find out, because I had other promotions, other stuff I had to work on, and then go back again. So,
This guy won, Michael Rossi, which I'd like.
Oh, he won the 94?
Yeah, he won 94.
So he was the one that went to SeaWorld, where everything, it was a mess. That was just clusterfuck. Yeah, that was a mess. Yeah.
The swerve was quite clever. You threw Donkey Kong Country in the last couple of rounds.
Yeah.
Which, if I went, I've been the only one familiar with the game because I played it at Summer Consumer Electronics.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
The very last one they ever held.
Yeah. So you were at Disney World where we were in Pleasure Island.
Yeah.
Right? It's not called that anymore, but yeah. Yeah, I remember those. Because we had 3 of those there, 3 finals there. So, wow. Bring back so many memories. Wow.
Yeah, I also remember how cold it was, and I thought, it's always warm weather down in Florida, even in December or January. It's like,
So, hold on. I think that was my last one that I did at Disney. So here's another story. So you guys are all flying in. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the hotel you stayed at?
It was a Disney resort.
Yep.
It had a pretty nice arcade.
Yep. Okay. So I'm there 3 days in advance, making sure that our agencies and all that have the buses and the food, and Disney's all ready and all that. Yeah. And so you guys are flying in. Literally, you guys are just landing, and I get a call from the manager of the hotel saying, we have our first guest here. Who's paying for this? And I'm like, wait a second. Nintendo's arranged all this for all of our, because it was you and one parent or you and 2 parents, I think. It wasn't the whole family of 10. If you wanted to bring the other 7, yes, or whatever. But we would pay for 1 room or something like that. And so I'm down at the front desk talking with the managers and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah. So I call, and they're like, we need money now. And so I call her accounting back in Seattle, in Redmond, and I'm like, and Jennifer, God, what was her last name? Jennifer, she was great. She's like, yeah, we can't get a check to you. And this is not, you can't wire money back then. Not yet. It wasn't really that sophisticated yet.
Western Union didn't exist yet.
Not like that. Again, I have you guys standing in the lobby, and we can't give you a room. So I'm like, here, will you take my Amex? And they're like, okay, we'll try it. It was $28,000 for all the rooms. And they run it, and I'm like, shit. Amex calls the hotel. Back in the days, really cell phones weren't there yet. We didn't have cell phones yet. And so they called the hotel saying, hey, is the owner of this card there? Yes. And I get on, I'm like, hey, yeah, here's the situation. Like, okay, yeah, we're not going to honor this. I'm like, you've got to. And they're like, okay, we need someone from Nintendo. So I gave Jennifer's phone number. They called Jennifer. Jennifer's like, yes, we'll get a check to you. It's Nintendo, blah, blah, blah. They believed her. They called me back. They called the hotel back, said, yes, we'll run it. And so I got a $28,000 bill on my Amex, which was at the time, again, I'm 26 now, 25. I'm like, holy shit, please Nintendo, you got to pay for this. Otherwise I'm screwed. But yeah, they paid for it. Yeah. But you're just bringing all these memories back. I'm like, wow, this is where I learned to grow up. And just because I'm there by myself, meaning I have agencies, but who else is going to handle this? It's my responsibility. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't want that burden.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. So what else in Nintendo? But we can continue on in my life and go back and forth and bounce around if you like.
Why not? So let's see. Gosh, I got some notes written down here, and I just kind of let you take over, and I was just listening intently. But
so
you did say how you got hired Nintendo.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So, game counseling, what was it like day to day? You said you worked from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. playing games.
Yeah, no. So this is what we were talking about earlier before we joined up. You and I were just chatting. Yeah. So we went to, that was 87. Christmas of 87 was when we just brought up Super Mario Brothers or 2, whatever it was. And so we said for the first time, so I've been there 3 months, and they said, all right, we're going to open at 4 a.m. Who wants to work at 4 a.m.? I raised my hand. Sure, I'll come in and answer customer service, on Christmas Day, because parents have no clue how to hook this up to their TV day after, etc.
Wow.
And I said, I'll do it, 4 a.m. And as you and I were talking, Stephen, is to this day, I still get up at 4 a.m. or earlier. Nintendo's the one that forced me into that direction because I did that for the next year. But so I came in at 4 a.m. and so they said, we're going to go for 4 to 8. Mm-hmm. The next year, or 3 months later, they said, all right, we're going to go 4 to midnight. And so then we switched to 4 to midnight. And then that time I started getting out of it. I became a gameplay counselor supervisor, etc., and started supervising and then doing more public relations and marketing and that kind of stuff. When I was on the phone as a gameplay counselor, I never was because I was customer service, but I was pretended I was a gameplay counselor because I was doing all the PR for the company. Doing that stuff. I did manage gameplay counselor. I did manage customer service. I also trained them. It was a 1 month long training just to learn the number one game, just to learn how to play all the games. So that, the most popular game, so we could answer the majority of the questions that came in. Mm-hmm. The number one game that most people had the problem with during my tenure as supervisor of training was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. No one could beat Mike Tyson.
Really?
Yes. And we only had 2 gameplay counselors that could do it quickly. And so we would call them in once a week with the gameplay counselors all standing around watching them, showing them how to beat Mike Tyson. And it pissed me off because they would just do it, I don't know, just so quickly. Over and over and over, losing, and they would just knock them out every time. And again, I get it. It's just you have to understand the fingers and do the right steps and then be able to do it. And so they would, Steve Pennington was one of the guys. He was a gameplay counselor that would just kick ass in it and was amazing to do. But all you did all day was talk to little kids. And don't get me wrong, I answered calls for games, but the number one question, how do I get through the forest in Zelda? What was it? Right, left, whatever it was. It was a U, upside down U. Left, right, left, or something. Point being is, how do I get through the forest in Zelda? Etc. So you can kind of tell I don't play Nintendo games anymore. I would love to go back and play Legend of Zelda, just the original one more time, just to remember that from 35 years ago.
Yeah, plus now the modern Zelda, it takes about 6 months to beat it.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit different graphics and stuff like that too.
Yeah, it's like I don't have time to play a 6 month long game. It's like nowadays for me, I have to play a game in short bursts,
right?
Which is why I've kind of latched on to classic arcade games.
Yeah, no, do I game today? I would. Don't get me wrong, I have an Xbox, etc. But I knew I turned it into an addiction. Let me say it that way. I knew that I would start playing 6, 8, 10 hours a day. If and like Oblivion. The Elder Scrolls, I love that game. I absolutely adore it and can play months on end, 24 hours a day. I think it's one of the most brilliant games ever made, The Elder Scrolls. But I realize I can't do this if I want to have a career, if I want to family, that kind of stuff, and I need to back off of that. Which let me just throw this out there. One of my biggest regrets working in Nintendo, and there was more in public relations, was standing on the cameras and saying, playing video. If you're young and you're a kid playing video games, it's not. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't damage you. It doesn't cause you to to not be fully developed and stuff. And I see today, I'm sorry, gaming is destroying, in my mind, destroying our youth, because that's all they do is sit on these things for 6-8 hours a day. They do not communicate with other human beings. They don't do anything like that. Back in our day, most kids did not play more than 1 or 2 hours because there were so many other things. But today, on the phone, on the iPad, etc., it's one of my biggest regrets, and I am an advocate to go out there and I talk about it, that we need to back gaming out of our children's lives. I don't mind them 1 or 2 hours, but the hours and hours and hours. I see my nephews playing 4 or 6 hours a day. It's just
well, we're young and we have a lot more free time on our hands. It's better us getting going and. There's a lot of things we can get into that get us into trouble.
No, and you absolutely could argue saying, well, they could be out on the street doing drugs or shooting people, but I'm like, no, they could be in the school playing basketball, or playing baseball, doing more physical things instead of, because these 2-3-year-olds that are playing on the phones, it's a babysitter, and it's like that's not. And I never really intended that. I never believed that would ever become like that, but it did.
But they're using it for more than just mobile gaming. They're using it for like social media, and that's the bigger problem these days.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's some but it's not my problem to some degree because I'm 60. It's got to be the young kids that got to stop this stuff. The 30-year-olds, the 25-year-olds, I got to learn how to teach the moderation of it. So
I will throw the caveat out there. The people who are Gosh, I've read horror stories where some South Korean in an internet cafe was marathoning some massive multiplayer game for like 72 hours until he dropped dead. Like literally.
Right.
They weren't playing Zelda. They weren't playing Super Mario. They were playing some RPG.
Yep.
Like, I don't know, EverQuest.
Yep.
So
and I tried those. But I don't. To me, those like the EverQuest games, even COD, Call of Duty, and stuff like that, when they become live and you're playing with other people, it unfortunately to me becomes very bullying, and it's like when the guy that's got everything built out and he just kicks your ass every time, and it's just like this is so frustrating, and it's like I like to be challenged, and I want to be challenged. And don't get me wrong, there are games out there that do that, and I play those games, and I do enjoy those games. I just don't like being bullied. Even at 60, I didn't like it. I didn't like it when I was 10. Didn't like it when I was 20. Didn't like it. I did not like it when I was at Nintendo, and these people would come in like, "Let's play," and they kick my ass. I'm like, "Okay, you win," and I just turn around and walk. No, let's play again. I'm like, "No, you're better than me," and I realize that I'm not going to continue to be abused to be there. Now, hold on, Steven. I wanted to ask you: did I ever beat you? Did we ever play up on stage?
We did not have a head-to-head that I know of or can remember.
Because I could swear I beat every champion. Because after the event, they'd always say, Blaine, go up there and play them. And I always did. And I remember beating them. And I always remember saying, but it's okay because he's won. He had the pressure, or she, well, it was always a he. He had the pressure, so he beat the pressure and won. And now he has no pressure. He doesn't care. He's won the money. He's won the car. Whatever we were giving away, he won it. So it's like, why, I'm like, this is not fair to be. Because I'm up there, I don't care, but I'll kick your ass, and you don't care. You got the car, you got the money, or whatever we were giving away, and so it's like but everyone's like, oh, you beat him.
The only thing that I recall from back all those years ago, I was supposed to play a teenager from Australia for the Nintendo Open Bowl or whatever it was.
I remember that.
Nintendo Open.
Yeah.
I remember that thing. There's a picture of another such item, Nintendo Open, but that was for 92. I don't know what the match did not happen because the kid missed rehearsal.
Right.
He got sick. I guess he got a cold.
Yep.
Didn't come out to rehearsal, so they brought him out on stage for an introduction to the crowd, but he didn't actually play in the.
Yeah.
Didn't play.
Yep. No, I remember that. Yeah, good point. That's another great memory. Yeah. No, yeah. You got to do what you
Who
got.
has that bowl, by the way?
I had it.
Do you
What
still
did I
have it?
do? Yeah, it was crystal. It was a Swarovski crystal bowl vase type. What the hell did I do with that?
If you come across it, if you can put a picture of that out there, I mean, that's some lore that needs to kind of be remembered being
What
exist.
the hell did I do with
I
that?
never took a picture of it, unfortunately. I wish I did, but we didn't have digital cameras. We had those film cameras.
Right.
So it was pretty limited what we could take pictures of.
I had it for like 15 years. I carried it with me when I moved to New York. What the hell did I do with that? Maybe I gave it away to someone. I had so much Nintendo crap when I left in '95.
You gave it to Andy?
No. I remember that. I know what I sold to him. Yeah.
Maybe a collector has it. But
Yeah.
yes, believe it or not, yes, the trophy is still here. This does not leave the house because of fear
Nice.
it might get broken.
Right.
If I don't take this to game cons or anything, even
Right. Wow.
yeah. I still got this too.
Oh yeah.
Everybody got
I had one of those. But again, once I gave it to Andy, I threw it away. So yeah.
Oh wow. But
Yeah. Oh, I don't
it's easier
remember
to
that.
carry championship belts around.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
That's
not ours.
No, it's not yours. It's basically comes out of the biggest arcade in the country.
Okay.
Galloping Ghost Arcade out in Brookfield, Illinois, which is where I was yesterday.
Okay.
Our new gamer of the year is in the stream chat. That would be Benjamin Falls, or he was. Is he still here? I'm gonna check. I got the users. Yeah, he's still here. Benjamin Falls is in the stream chat. He won Gamer of the Year yesterday, and the last score he took happened to be one of mine. I don't know if you know of a little game called Sky Skipper.
No.
It never got released. Well, it was released for the Atari 2600. That was the only release of this game, but the arcade game never got released in America. Nintendo of America has a copy of it at their facility in Washington State. There was a big ordeal of they discovered a Popeye board that was different from all the others, and it used to run Sky Skipper. And then they converted it back to Sky Skipper, and they also sent people out to Nintendo of America to scan the cabinet and create a reproduction. So Galloping Ghost has Sky Skipper in their building. Yes. The GGA, where today's game counselors play. Yes. That's accurate. Ben Falls got her 127,000 on Sky Skipper, which is now the world record because there's no other gameplay runs higher than that. He squashed my score by about 40K. It was... Yeah, when you play the game, you loop through the 4 levels twice, and then the last level just repeats infinitely until you run out of planes. But wasn't released. But I don't know if you've ever. Did you ever play Sky Skipper?
No. I might have, but so as a public relations spokesperson for the company, representing a gameplay counselor, I got a copy of every game. Made from 87 through when I left as a PR guy in 92. So I ended up with, last count, it was like 1,900 games that I had in my apartment.
All different or some duplicates?
No, everyone different. Every game ever made for NES, Super NES, and because I was supposed to play them all and talk to them about them, and especially the licensee was supposed to, they gave them to me so that I would hype them on wherever I was on, Howard Stern or whatever. Say, hey, this is a great game, Sky Skippers or whatever. Yeah. There's no way I could have played all of these games. It's just... Yeah! I even played each 5 minutes each because I would get approximately 20 a month. And it was just like, oh my God. And I'm flying all over the country, putting on our promotions, and again, having a job all day. Yeah.
There is. I couldn't do it, but Gavin Ghost Arcade, for the just for the record, has 1,051 games on the floor
Wow.
currently. Yes,
Yeah.
some of them are doubled up in the same cabinet. Some are Neo Geo, which are 6-slot. So the person who ran the gauntlet, I think the arcade had about 400 to 500 games, and he ran the gauntlet where he played one of every game in the arcade, and it took him a little less than 2 days.
Sure, you play like 5 seconds. Like throw a quarter in and
he
go.
played a game and just played it until he lost.
Wow.
So he had to put in the effort. But that's when it was like 400 some odd.
Right. Wow.
That was several years ago. I don't know if anybody. I mean, somebody locally could try it, but they're probably got to break it up during. Just have it. I mean, they were doing this marathon even after the arcade closed. They were doing it nonstop. It was on a live stream, no less.
Right. Wow.
Including all the Nintendo games.
Right. So, all right. So while we were just chatting, I was ChatGPTing. I'm like, give me all the list of all the hosts of Nickelodeon during the 80s and 90s. And I'm thinking, I guess it is Mark Summers. I don't remember the name.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone's kicking back to it's got to be him. So we flew him in, and he was such. Remember, this is the event where the director walked off 1 hour before. He played with me. He did wonders for me. He saved, as I was calling out TVs, and he would say, "Hey, we're up to Mark, we're up to John now," and I'm like, "Oh, go to throw up John stats," because I've never done anything like this. It was amazing, but yeah, I'm sorry. So yeah, oh my gosh, what memories! Wow.
Well, I just found I don't know if I can throw this up here. Let me remove this from stop screen, present, share screen, window. Here we go. This is an autographed copy of the Double Dare Nintendo cartridge.
Wow.
On eBay right now.
Huh.
Wow.
For $199? Oh my god.
I'll tell you this. I'm not an autograph collector. Let me throw it.
Yeah.
I'm not an autograph collector. I do have a trading card. I have a couple.
Right.
I don't.
So I
had a couple on my desk, but.
So if you went to Toys R Us at the time, you would see a Ken Griffey cutout and a Mike Tyson cutout. And of course, I had a Ken Griffey Jr. autographed cutout and a Mike Tyson autographed cutout in my apartment that I have no clue what I ever did with them.
Okay.
I'm just thinking. I bet you they're worth $100,000 today because he like when Griffey and Tyson came into the office. I was there when Griffey came in, and everyone had one. They could bring one item in to get autographed. He's at 1 hour, and then you were specially selected to who got to see him and meet him to get his autograph. And everyone brought in bats and balls. I grabbed his freaking life-size stand-out of him with Ken Griffey Jr. base. I said, "Sign this." No idea what I did with it.
Sandy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that would be worth a lot of money.
Right, because everyone had baseballs and bats. I'm like, everyone's getting this shit. I want something different. It's like, you have to stand out and just be different. So
there are people who collect the standees, and I just sold one a few weeks ago. Although it was a game, it's like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Right.
Although I was seeing somebody was trying to hawk these on eBay for $1,000. Like, I'm not going to get this much money for that.
Right.
I sold it for $80.
Right. You got to really be into that. So yeah.
I do have a Super Paper Mario standee, but I ain't letting that one go.
No. Wow. I wonder whatever happened to all the inflatables that they had too. The Dr. Mario, the Super Mario, the Yoshis, all the ones that we had built. So yeah.
Somebody's got them.
Yeah, well, or they just sat in a semi and grew mold. Let me see if I can show this on the camera. I'd never scanned this or anything like that. So this is one of the few pictures I have of Nintendo. So this is you see the inflatable right here, and there's Mario, and this is the Campus Challenge layout, but this is our summer picnic. for Nintendo. Every year we had a company picnic. So this is where all the employees would eat, etc. But we set up, and this is where we introduced for the very first time this tent.
Yeah.
And I remember I spent 72 hours almost up straight. I remember I had like 5 hours of naps to get all this set up because we were introducing it to the company. And to our president, who had never seen it or anything like that. We set that tent up for the first time to build it. We set it up in an airline hangar down at Boeing Field in Seattle. And it was there for 3 weeks as we put it all together and glued everything together to make it all work. So, I don't know why I'm thinking of that. Again, you're bringing back all these memories of things. I'm like, holy crap. Of us.
Yes. I wanted to relive some memories myself here because, I won the doggone thing.
Yeah, you did good. You did good. So I remember we had 3 cars wreck out. Because let me back up. At Campus Challenge, we had a sponsor, Chevy, and they were introducing the new Geo line of cars, the Geo Storm and stuff like that. And they were little itty mini cars. And so we would have one semi that was full of 8 of them, and we had 3 that were totaled. And then we had multiple that were wrecked, but they just needed some dent out. So we would go in. They would call me saying, "All right, we just had a student, wreck out. You had to have insurance to drive it and stuff like that." We're like, okay. And so we would just call the dealership in the town we were in, and they would bring out a new Geo and give it to us, and take the broken one, smashed one away from wherever it was smashed up. They were never.
Wait a minute here. Yeah. So you had Nintendo employees doing stunt driving with these Geos, or what?
No. Great question. No. So let's back up a couple things here. Get me back on track if I lose it. One is we hired an agency that would do these shows for us. They would go and set them all up, run them. There was never the only Nintendo employee that ever was there was me, and I would go there every other week or so. That was just to make sure that all the money that we're paying all these companies to put these events on, we're spending it correctly.
Okay.
They were. And so the companies had liability insurance, and they were required. And so we got a sponsor, Chevy. They picked up, I think, $1.5 million of dollars, and we had the logos everywhere. And then what they allowed was we had these cars on campus so that you, the college student, could drive the car.
Yeah.
So we would have you sign up, just like you went to a dealership to drive the car, test drive. You could go test drive these Geos. And so on your own, we just sign over, et cetera, make sure you had insurance, everything, and then you're 19, 20, 21, off you went. And so if you wrecked it, you wrecked it. But again, you had the insurance. And so Chevy was willing to eat the cost if the student came back, saying, "Hey, I wrecked your car, da-da-da-da-da." And they did. But if the student took off, none of them did. But we said, they were going to have to file, to arrest warrants, et cetera, because they did it, and et cetera. But we understood college students, so they had to be sober, et cetera, and they all were. They were just stupid wrecks, stupid wrecks. But yeah.
Boy, wow! I didn't think they were doing test drives of cars, but
oh yeah. No, we would. Chevy would not be happy. There was one weekend where we had less than 100 test drives, and they were very happy because most of the time we had over 500 test drives. And we promised to them that we would try to get 200, 250 a week, not a weekend, a 2-day show. And over those 2 days, having 500 students line up to drive these 8 different cars for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, they could go anywhere. We asked them to come back within 30 minutes. Most of them just drove around the campus real fast and go, "Oh, this is a cute little car." And so, yeah.
I don't even remember that being an option when at SIU.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. Well, but again, we set up on the quads, and you couldn't put a car on the quad or a car. No. The test driving was wherever the campus said, go over the parking lot or whatever it was. So sometimes it was a mile away. It wasn't like next door. All you knew about it was you saw the Chevy logo, and of course we always talked about, hey, if you want to test drive it, our announcers, they would announce it all the time. But yeah.
I will say this: I still have the Geo Storm.
Yeah. Wow. Is it
shocking?
Wow. And it runs how many miles?
I can tell you this: my Toyota Prius has surpassed it.
Okay.
It's 108,000. It's just basically for leisure, but there was a number of years where I was trying to determine why it would run and then have trouble running on the next startup.
Right.
And it's like a stuck valve.
Right. I can't believe that still runs. That's great.
It still runs, yes, and the insides of it have the rocker panels have been replaced, but
Right.
it was outside.
Sure.
But now it's in a garage.
Right.
I have had somebody offer to buy it off of me for a gaming museum. Which that'll be down the road. 'Cause I would like to have a truck
Right.
to haul arcade games around and stuff.
Sure. Sure.
But the Prius is my primary vehicle. I just use
Sure.
the Geo for in-town driving and a secondary.
Right.
But yeah, it's seen better days, but it's still in good
Sure.
shape.
Sure.
So,
All
I don't know
right.
anybody else have. Yeah, why did I keep it? It was a trophy car.
Yeah.
That's why.
Right.
That's why I wouldn't let it go. I'm crazy. I spent so many $1,000s having to restore the thing, the inside
Yeah.
of it. Sanity.
Wow.
Yeah. So I do have some other questions about
Shoot.
the Campus Challenge.
Okay.
So 91, everybody got flown out to Florida for the finals. There was 50 some odd students that got flown out to Orlando.
That I picked up the
And-
cost. Yep.
Yep. Four rounds.
Yeah, it was 86 campuses. I was just reading again. And all the Six Flags. I totally forgot about the Six Flags. So,
So the teams were divided up into 5 groups. They eliminated everybody except 12. Well, they narrowed it down to 12 for round 2, then 6 for round 3.
Yeah.
That's when I had my breakthrough, my personal best having to happen at the right time. And the other two people ahead of me, kind of crashed and burned. What happened?
What were the 3 games?
Super Mario 3, Pinbot, and Dr. Mario.
What was the middle one? Pinbot?
Pinbot. Yes, it was pinball. Pinball is the video adaptation of the Bally Midway or Bally arcade.
Oh my God! Yes, because you had to pull it back like halfway, a little bit past half or whatever, to get the ball to drop the right way to get the most points. Now I remember.
Get 100,000. Get the skill shot.
Yeah. Oh wow! And then Dr. Mario. I remember Dr. Mario. Okay.
That had the 100K 100 times multiplier.
Right.
I not so great at puzzle, so I ended up playing Super Mario 3 with that 10x multiplier.
Yep.
But now it's like years later, I find out, okay, the scoring method I was using, spamming the Goombas, was not the fastest way to score points. It was spamming the turtles in the first level, but I didn't know how to do that, and I had to watch somebody. Paul Tessie did it.
Which is interesting because, I discovered this, I think, in '94 at the Powerfest, is that our developers that develop these games that set how long each game and the points required, et cetera, is they always made it that the first or the second game is where you want to get your most points in.
Yeah.
The third one is, yes, just an add-on, but it's not where you should be winning the game. It was always the first or the second game. So you're spot on with that. Is that the Japanese developers that built all these? They were ingenious in that, of like, you do not want to rush to get to that third one. You want to get as many points. And again, they were all timed. I get it. It was 800,000 points, but there was a way to do it so that you could quickly get to that third stage. But it didn't matter if you got there or not. If you hit 16 home runs or 18 home runs, if you got to that time frame, So it was ingenious the way they built it all, and that's when I learned that when we took the game, these game cartridges were not small. I don't know if you've ever shown them on your, these are big ass developed game cartridges, but when you open them up, all the switches.
Wait a minute. Let me grab this. So I do have a reproduction. This is the gold cart that Robin Mahara.
Yeah.
I collaborated with him to make a 25th anniversary edition of this.
Right.
And I signed the back of each one of these.
Right. That's funny. That's interesting. But these were huge. They'd have the thing, and then there would be almost a plate sitting on top of them. And when you unscrewed them all the switches inside. And that's what I was saying, is that you can switch it so that a home run, let's say in Ken Griffey Jr., or if you got 4 colors of Dr. Mario, they'd give you 10% more points or 20% less. And you could actually go back and change each one and go back and forth. And And I remember this, one of our guys on the road took one apart and messed with it, and it went into the competition, and we had a kid that kicked the shit out of everyone on the campus. And I remember them calling me on a Tuesday afternoon. I was back in Seattle going, we got a guy here that scored 6 times the amount. And I called Japan, and we're on the phone. We're like, there's no way this could happen. And then finally they got the kid to admit the roadie that he went in and changed and he forgot how to set them all back. And so I threw out.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you'd have to have another cart, and then you'd look at that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But they were sealed. They should not be opened. We put a rubber cement on them so they can't be opened.
Yeah.
And so that's way if they were tampered with, we would know. And that's how we knew. And so, so we fired him. Again, he wasn't a Nintendo employee, he worked for the agency, but they fired him and got rid of him. And because we weren't happy with that because it was proprietary information at the time. Because again, you could win a car, $10,000.
Right.
So it was like, we didn't like that. So
So what they did back then, if I recall correctly, that people who got the highest scores out in the field before they got to the finals,
right?
They were recording the game. They were, I guess, videotaping the game with a camera, so they could see the boards and the order of the pills, and then they would just write out how to land everything, so it creates the biggest chain reaction, which is what Paul Tessie did, trying to so many years later, try to clear so many viruses with the amount of time that's left, and he got to the fifth board of Dr. Mario.
Steven, I could swear that we changed the cart.
Probably in the finals.
Yeah. Every one of my competitions, I can swear we went in and changed them because I flew an engineer down with me who reset it, a Japanese engineer.
That was correct. I believe what you're saying is correct.
Because we knew that the cheating capability, because back in the 1990 Powerfest, we saw parents videotaping the TV screens that the kids were playing, and then we said, what are they doing? And then we found out they're preparing for the finals and to cheat. And we're like, okay, we're going to go in and change all these games. And we learned from that on, always go and change them in the finals. We didn't care if you flew to 3 different or 5 different events to make it to the finals because we knew it's all going to change when you get to the finals. Good point.
Although Super Mario Lost Levels is pretty much the same. You pretty much had to clear 1-1, so there was not really much to change there.
Right. Well, linear. When we had linear, you really couldn't change it. But like a Dr. Mario, we could absolutely speed it up just a half a second. For the pills to drop.
Or change the board layout.
Yeah, and that just changed everything. So that was nice to have that capability.
And then so Powerfest, Super Mario Lost Levels, then a lap of Mario Kart.
Yep.
Other people like Brandon Beach managed to master drifting around the corners. I couldn't. I didn't.
Yep. Right.
You get to Ken Griffey Jr. and it's like it's luck because you can't hit the ball the same, or even if you hit the ball the same, every single time the ball may not go out of the park. It may ground. It may just pop up.
So. It's funny because you're talking about the one game that I got the most crap on from everyone, meaning the contestants as well as employees.
Griffey.
Yeah, because I never lost. I played every winner when I went out on the road, and I played that cartridge against the other kids because they'd say, "Hey," because they all they had seen me on TV or they heard me on the radio or they'd read an article about me. Because I was like in People Magazine and stuff like that, and they're like, "Hey, I challenge you," and I'm like, "Let's go!" And I'd play them with 11 other people. And I'd say, I'm not counted. Whoever wins this, even if I win it, whoever the next point is, you're going to advance on or whatever in your score. I never lost with that game cartridge. And so when we went to the finals, that's why I said I played everyone in the finals too. I never lost to that too. And everyone would get so upset with me because they're like, you know how to cheat, and I'm like, no, but I remember on the Griffey, because my other gameplay counselors, when they watched me play the game cart, they would sit there and go, you have the timing down exact. And I'm like, for some reason I do. I knew exactly when to swing that bat to hit the home run every freaking time, and I remember in my head, I see myself going, not yet now, not yet now, not yet, and every time a home run, home run, home run. And I was just, and again, it was not, pace like, like a metronome. It wasn't click, click, click. It was, click, 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 click. I was just able to know how the engineers built it with a throw. And so, yeah, that you're bringing back some great memories there, because they were all so pissed at me thinking that I knew a cheat, and I didn't. It was just, if you ever look me up and you look back at my days when I was a Nintendo Power magazine, they would do interviews with gameplay counselors, and they'd always ask the gameplay counselor, "What's your favorite game?" or "What's your favorite genre of games?" And I always said sports games. And there was a baseball game before Ken Griffey that I said, "This is my favorite video game." It was a baseball game, and it's just because back to tactics and understanding how the engineering was done and making the game so that you could cheat. I guess you could cheat it and hit the home run every time. But I just loved being able to do that and have that capability, but especially in the competition, beating these other little brats. And granted, I was 4 or 5 years older, but just these, they're 16 or well, that was young kids, these little 12, 13, 14-year-olds, thinking they could kick my ass, and I kicked their ass 25 years old. It was great. So, yeah.
Well, nowadays, we have little kids that are kicking the adults' butts at fighting games.
Yeah,
One
there's
did
no way.
to me fairly recently.
Right.
And he was pretending he was not that good, and then
Right. Oh!
It's like, by the time you realize you got played, it was already too late.
As long as you didn't put money on it, that's what's most important.
No.
Okay.
Put another ball around my waist. I didn't get it. I will say this. Somebody just chatted. Oh, there we go. Let me show this guy. Yes. Gotta love some Mario Kart. Powerfest 94, yeah, sports games is my Achilles heel. Not that great at them compared to, let's say, a maze game or a platformer. I was spamming the turtle in the lost levels until a certain point, and then I just finished the level out.
Right.
They did try to ban it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. So I
had to argue with the guy running the show in Mount Vernon, and I had to call Nintendo. I was like, they're not letting me do this. Why?
You're triggering something here. I kind of remember that. Oh well, we
it was bizarre.
Maybe you won because you cheated. Joking.
I didn't win. It still kicked my rear.
It was. We made it so hard to cheat. It was really difficult. I remember one of the tours we changed the cartridge halfway through because we knew we were going to change it to the finals. It did not matter that you would have won the previous week, and then someone else won the next week, because we just wanted to stop it if there was any cheating. Someone had brought it up, and we said, "All right, we'll just change the timing of some of the stuff and just go in and we just change the switches." And that was the time that I had.
They do call it, what they do call it now is they call it leeching.
Okay.
So I was spamming the turtle because it was kind of like the stair, trying to spam the turtle in the original Super Mario on a certain point and just run up the 1-ups. I was trying to get those 8,000 point counters.
Right.
Because I wasn't that good at Ken Griffey hitting them home runs.
But most people weren't that good at one of the three or two of the three. They were very good at one. Yeah. And so you had to be good at two of them and then very good at that third to really make it to get qualified even in the local areas and then move on to that. Very few people were experts in all three. Yeah. And again, we kept messing with you because we kept switching the game around.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that there was no cheating or anything like that. By the way, thank you so much for putting up my website. For those that's my website, xbrand.biz. And I have a blog on there that I've written about Nintendo. If you're interested, some of my times in Nintendo.
Medium.com.
Yep, it's on Medium.
I found that.
Yeah. Oh, okay, but you can get to it to XBrand. Just click on Leadership Blog, because I write a lot about management and marketing. Because that's my career, is management and marketing. When I left Nintendo, I got into product marketing and stuff like that.
I will get into the companies you've worked for, because one of them, you worked for a company that introduced the USB flash drive.
Yep. We all have them.
Yeah.
We all have them all over our desks. Yep.
Yeah, this one's modeled after a truck. Garbage truck.
I have all those I have all the originals of. They're the very first ones we ever built in an Epson printing in Portland, Oregon, where Epson made their printers. We made our first run there. And so
Yeah, how much? What was the capacity of the very first ones? Just curious.
Was 8 megabytes. We sold it for $99, and we had a 16 megabyte version also. And we sold it for $149.
And now I can get them for get a terabyte on the
for $8.
Same amount of money or something. Off Amazon.
Yeah. No, that was. But we had the. No, it was. I was living in Israel at the time, and it was a startup. There were 8 of us, and so they hired me to market it to the world, and so I did. So, Yes,
he did. But what? Well,
no,
he brought it to America. Let's put that way.
I brought it to the world.
Brought it to the world. Okay.
Yeah. Let me catch you up to that then. So I left Nintendo. I was fired, like I mentioned, on Christmas Eve, 1994, because the Powerfest 94 finals were December 16th or 15th, something like that. Okay. And so I moved out to New York, met a woman online with AOL, if we all remember AOL, which I just heard. Which yesterday I heard that they finally announced they're going to stop their dial-up service. AOL. I didn't know they were still.
Correct.
Yeah, I did not know they were still doing dial-up. But so I moved out to New York to be with her, and I got a job with another startup called Olympus Image Systems. Mm-hmm. Olympus Image Systems was a spin-off of Olympus Japan. Olympus Japan, makes cameras. Olympus Japan also makes medical devices. Olympus Japan made they did a spin-off, a startup here in America to try new products in America and see if they succeed or not. And so I was the product manager, and this was right after Nintendo, and they gave me a product called magneto-optical drive. A magneto-optical drive is what's in a black box in an airplane. But it was to bring it out to consumers, for us to use. And they were just discs like CDs, but they're very robust, very hard to destroy while they're in airplanes. And so we launched it the same day. If you guys remember the iOmega zip drive, we launched it the same day that the iOmega zip drive launched theirs, and they kicked our ass. So in 3 months, we shut down that. Then they gave us what's called a jukebox, and a jukebox is what you see on TV, where you see the robotic arm goes up and grabs a disc, moves it down, plugs it in, you get data off it, then it moves up. We tried to sell those to consumers. 3 months later, we got out of that business. So Olympus Japan said, "Hey guys," and there were 15 of us. And they said, "All right, we're going to give you one more product to try, and then we're going to shut you down." We worked out of Long Island. And Olympus America does have a headquarters, and it was at the time on Long Island. But we were not part of Olympus America. We were a startup that was funded by Olympus Japan, which was brilliant, because if we failed, or whatever you want to call it, we were a tax write-off. And so Olympus America did not take the hit on the books on all our failures. So it was brilliant the way they did it. They said, "All right." And so we rented a space, by the way, in the basement of Olympus America, literally the basement. And we would come in shorts, T-shirts, and listen to music and jam like a startup, like you would imagine back in the mid-'90s. And Olympus America sold film camera, as well as 90% of Olympus in general's revenue comes from devices that are medical, meaning go inside the body to look, or they go into airplanes and look at engines. So instead of taking apart the airplane engine and look at a crack or anything like that, they built the capability to go into an airplane engine, etc. So they make most of their money that way. So most of the people that worked at Olympus America were in suits. Got it? Okay, we're in shorts, partiers, etc. I'm 30 years old, whatever. And so they said, "Here's your last product. You got to try this. If it fails, you guys are shutting you down. If it's successful, okay, whatever." It's called a digital camera. We want you to try to do this. I was the product manager. We want you to try to make this a success in America. And so we all have digital cameras. Well, we don't even have that anymore. Those are now into phones. And so we launched the digital camera, the DS200 and 300, for like $500 and $700. And so we were able to launch that, became very successful. 6 months later, Olympus Japan said, "All right, we're shutting you down, and you're going to now become part of Olympus America." The first day, we come into the office. They're like, "Okay, we're going to move you upstairs, but you guys now have to wear suits. You have to dress like the rest of us and be like the rest of us." There were 16 of us. 14 of us quit within 2 weeks. The other 2 stayed on about a year, and then they left. And we're like, "Screw this shit," because the digital camera was it was really a cultural change from film for 40 years. And so and the way we positioned it and marketed it as a product marketing manager, I positioned it as fun and exciting, and you could take it, review it, delete, take another picture. You didn't have to wait a week to go get them developed. And so that's the way I positioned it all. So we all quit. I left. And at that time in my life, I was like, where am I going to go next? I need to get into the internet because the internet's going to be big. So this is 97. This is 97, 98. So I went to work for a company called Prodigy. And Prodigy was a dial-up service before AOL. And they were out of upstate New York. Not really, it was really Westchester. It was about a 2-hour commute each way. So I got hired as their online manager to produce their online content. And 3 months into the job, they're like, okay, we're trying to sell the company, I found out. I'm like, what do you mean you're trying to sell? We're trying to sell the company. And IBM had just sold us off to be a singular private entity, but we need to sell it because we're losing so much money. You got 3 months to figure it out. The C-suite, the CEO, COO, et cetera, they all called us in, the senior managers like myself, and said, we got to do something. And everyone kept coming up with different ideas. And we were in our second month, and they said, 1 more month, and then we're going to shut down if we can't get this sold. And I said, here's what we're going to do. Here's what I suggest we do. There's no one going after the Hispanic market. Let's change this whole website. Let's have an English version, but let's have a whole Spanish version for the millions of Hispanics that are in America that would enjoy having a Hispanic website to go to and get their content and their, et cetera, news, a calendar, all that kind of stuff. So there was 84 programmers, engineers, whatever you want to call them. And within 30 days, we switched it all to Hispanic. We went from 800,000 users to 2.6 million users within 60 days. And SBC, again, those that are old, if you remember Baby Bells, the way the Bell company was broken up back in the 70s and 80s, a Baby Bell out of SBC, out of Texas, bought us. And so they wanted me to move to Houston. I said, no, I'm leaving. So, hey, someone that I worked with there said, hey, I'm working at a startup out on Long Island called BroadServe. BroadServe, to this day, there's a couple of us we still talk. BroadServe was early YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had some funding. And this is 99. And so I started working there as their vice president of marketing. And one weekend, the developers, all the development was done in Israel. And all the developers and the C-suite and investors, we all came into a room. And this was not necessarily Zoom because there was none of that capability, but they called in over long distance. And we sat around a table, meaning the C-suite in America and me and some of the other managers, as well as all the developers in Israel. And the guy in Israel is talking to us about, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to take this and be able to stream these videos and do stuff like this. And we had BET, NBC. They're going to be able to come in and put their videos up, and we're going to play them. And my little background that I had at Prodigy, I'm like, no, this guy's lying. And so they hang up. I turn to the guys, and this is at midnight because the call in Israel was at 10 in the morning, and we're all at midnight in Garden City in Long Island. And I turned to the C-suite and the investor and I said, he's lying to you. Mm-hmm. And they're like, how do you know? And I'm like, because of ABCD. I'm like, okay, well, we don't really believe you, but we know there's something going on. And there was $8 million invested so far in this company. And they said, Blaine, fly to Israel, and I want you to check it out. So I fly to Israel. I meet with the developers, and I meet with the guy, he was the chief development officer. I meet with the developers underneath him, and they're all like, yeah, we're not ready. We don't have anything. He's just bullshitting you. So I flew back to America, to New York. I'm like, here's what's happening. And they're like, okay, we want you to go back there, live there the next 90 days, make this happen, because we are going to introduce this product at a major marketing event in Times Square. Next 90 days, I live in Israel. I'm living in a hotel, blah, blah, blah. We launched the event in Times Square. We're expecting a lot more money. I fly back to Israel to continue to drive the product. We get a call from our CFO that says, hey, the CEO just took all the money and left. You need to fire everyone.
Wow.
Yeah, so you need to fire everyone. I'm like, okay. So the next morning, I call everyone in the office. We fire everyone. We're like, and it's not only firing. We're like, hey, we have no money. We're shutting down the office. Now, Israelis,
down.
Yeah. So Israelis are a little different than Americans, and they were not happy. And so they took all the computers, the desks, and I don't blame them because they weren't going to get their last paycheck. They took everything with them. They took the servers. Everyone took something piece home. And so I still had 2 weeks left in my hotel paid for, and a flight for 2 weeks later to fly back to America just to continue business. So I sat there I'm like, I'm going to lay on the beach for 2 weeks in the Mediterranean in Israel. The next day, someone calls me and says, hey, there's a small company called M Systems, and they have a product they're looking for a marketing manager. There's 6 of them. I'm like, okay, can you meet with them? I said, sure. Well, the CEO, he is on leave right now for military, so you're going to have to meet him on his military base. I said, sure. So and he's in the Negev desert. So I drive down to the Negev desert, which is literally a desert like you see in movies, just sand and ocean. I came over a hill, and there's the Air Force Base. I'm not allowed on it because they had already emailed me saying, we'll meet you out by the main gate. There's a picnic table, sit there. So I sit, he comes out with the product manager. He sits down, we interview, and like, okay, we want to get hired. I'm like, sure. What's the product? Well, it's this little device, and on it's a chip. And so we think that we can make this work and sell this into the world. And I said, okay, let me get more information on it. Like, we want you to meet with the CEO. We want to hire you because just your marketing background, you're excited, you have some passion, etc. All right. One kind of interview. He wants to meet with you tonight at midnight. Israelis start work around noon and they end around 1 or 2 in the morning. A little bit different than us. So I met with him at midnight, and I'm like, okay, what is this? He's like, this is a little USB flash drive. I'm like, okay, what are you going to do with it? He's like, I want every ATM in the world to have a USB port, and we're going to do all our banking on this. So you're going to walk in, you're going to plug it in, you're going to come back to home, plug it into your home computer, and there's all your banking information, and you can do it all. He's like, what do you think? And I said, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. There's no way that you're going to convince a $1 trillion banking industry to change hundreds of thousands of ATMs around the world to throw away or to switch out or whatever, and cost millions and millions of dollars to change this out.
Or retrofit.
Yeah, all that. I'm like, this is going to take decades to make this happen. He's like, well, what do you recommend? And I said, I think you guys need to replace the floppy drives. I said, from the background that I have and the knowledge that I have of talking with different people, manufacturers and stuff like that, by removing a floppy drive from a laptop or from a desktop, well, there really weren't laptops popular like they are today, more desktops.
Right.
But just removing that floppy drive, you're going from the 1.44 meg to 8 megabytes. Woo! 8 times the size, et cetera. And you're passing the cost on to the customer. The customer, you can save it out of the desktop and say to the customer, you want storage? Go buy a USB flash drive. And so we then started manufacturing these out of Portland, like I mentioned earlier, the Epson printing facility, the manufacturing.
Yeah.
So we made a couple thousand, and we started going to each manufacturer, like Compaq, if you remember Compaq, IBM when they were in the computer business, etc. And IBM was the first one that said, you know what, we'll do this. How much will you sell it to us for? And we said, well, our cost is $88. And they said, we'll give you 25. And we said, okay, how many do you want? And they said, we want 20,000. So we took all our investment money that we had, everything we had, we made the 20,000, gave them to IBM. They sold out. Everyone bought them within a couple months. And so from there on, we then went to Compaq, then we went to Lenovo, then we went to, yes, J.D. Roth. Yes, Mega Retro Man. Absolutely. That's who it was, J.D. Roth. Thank God. Because I would have spent all day yesterday trying to find this guy's name.
He's the host of GamePro TV.
Today?
No, back then. He went to host the video game series GamePro TV back in 91.
Right.
And he hosted Double Up on NBC.
Okay.
And he was on Masters of the Maze for the Family Channel, Zoo Venture.
Okay.
From there, Mad Libs for the Disney Channel.
Yeah, but you're getting it later, but because we brought him in '94, but he was very popular in the late '80s because he was on the downhill. So whatever he was doing then. Thank you, Mega Retro Man. Nice, beautiful. Yes, I knew the name. I was like, God, it starts with a J. Swell. Yeah. So we went from $0 because we were a startup to $282 million the first year. 4 years later, we went for over $1 billion in sales, and then SanDisk bought us, and that's why you see, because we had the patent, so you see SanDisk. Yeah. So my job was to launch it to the world, which I did, marketing it. Here's an interesting story. Yeah, there you go. Here's an interesting side kick to that is that when we also sold this individually. If a company wanted to put their name on it, et cetera, they could, and then we would just manufacture and put it on there. At the time of 2000, 2001 was the second Intifada in Israel, where the terrorists were blowing up the buses and killing the Jews and the Israelis on the streets and stuff like that. And so, but there was a lot of anti-Semitism in Europe, and they would not buy from us because Israel deserves to be blown up. And so my bosses asked me, how do you think we can get this into Europe? And I said, here's what we're going to do. And I wrote a blog post on this. If you find it, great. It's much more detailed than what I'm going to go through right now.
Yeah.
But I came up, I said, hey, let's do this. We're going to open a company in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to call this the Kangaroo, and we're going to put Kangaroo on the packaging, and we're going to sell it to Europe as an Australian company. And we did. And a year later, we went to all the companies in Europe and the retailers that we were selling to, and I was like, hey, we're really Israeli. You guys are making millions and millions of dollars off of these. Do you want to stop the business now? No, we'll keep selling. Like, fuck you. And we just kept selling to them, but we switched it all back to M Systems as an Israeli company. Because it was just like, and that's when for me being from Montana, because that's where I grew up, that was the first time I really experienced racism and anti-Semitism. Yeah. And in the business place, I'm like, this is just not right. And so I was so grateful, and you can hear it in my voice to this day, that I screwed them over, and I was able to get them through my marketing and get them to buy the product. So that's getting the USB flash drive out there that you guys now have millions and millions of on your desks and in your drawers and stuff like that.
And I have to troubleshoot as part of my regular IT job duties at incident management for the Department of Innovation and Technology.
Yeah, you're funny. So my wife, she works for the DoD, and she's like, I have all these things I cannot use because they're not allowed on base or not allowed in any federal agency or anything like that. So yeah. No, we made one. We made the white ones for Apple because they picked us up. Beautiful white USB flash drives. And then we were going up to the military. We made USB flash drives in hard rubber with them sticking out. And we had a Merkava, which is an Israeli tank, drive over it. We pulled it out, popped it in, and said, "Look, here's what it can do," and it still worked. Just because, why not? Yeah. So I've been very blessed in my life of just bouncing around and going where I was going. So
You also work for Notable Solutions and Illuminato, I think it's
Yeah. So Notable Solutions, Notable Solutions was cybersecurity on printers because people didn't realize that printers in your corporate could be hacked, and that's how you could get into the networks. And so I was the product manager, director of product marketing, I guess, and educating the government that you need to lock down and secure your printers. So I did that. It was a startup. Nuance bought us. So that's why I'm saying I'm so blessed because I've worked for so many startups. And if you've ever worked for a startup, if you're young, you want to work for a startup because when you get sold, you get lots of stock options and lots of money.
Yeah.
And so Notable Solutions got bought by Nuance, which then next year Microsoft bought Nuance, etc. But they bought us for $2.5 billion, and then Microsoft bought them for like $8 billion, something like that. And so then I went to Illuminato, which was a SaaS-based product where we helped. Really unique. It failed. It was one of the few startups. It was the only startup I've really worked at that's failed. It was a brilliant concept. Was that a sales rep would build a personal web page for every one of their clients. Meaning, if you're in sales, anyone listening to us, and you went and called on your client, you're going to leave them contracts. You're going to leave them brochures. You're going to leave them videos. And so we built it so that, yes, you leave it that for them, but it also is automatically uploaded to their website. So they would go to www.toyota/Blaine sales rep. And I could go and find everything that you've ever given to me over the month or years or whatever of a relationship. And they're all assigned contracts. And so it was all built for the sales rep to then communicate. And the sales reps that used it loved it because there was never the follow-up. Did you get the contract? Did you read the brochure? Everything's there. And it was also tracked. So if the client went in and watched the video, you were then notified as a sales rep, hey, Jimmy Joe Blow just watched your video. You can now call them and say, hey, I saw you watch the video. Are you interested in buying the product? The capabilities of it were tremendous. The problem is our pricing structure. And that was that, hey, you got to buy 100 of them, licenses them at $1,000 each. So you got to give us $50,000 or whatever to get this license for all your sales reps to use. And we ran out of money before we really got it going. So, but you learn. You've got to fail to succeed in life. And so, yeah.
So let's go back to Nintendo and Forgotten Lore. There was the one thing that I found surprising about the '92 Campus Challenge is that there wasn't a final. All the campus winners got their names got thrown in a hat.
Yep.
And they were drawn. Then the winner was drawn out of a hat.
Yep.
Why was it switched to that setup instead of a final somewhere, like a playoff or a tournament?
Yeah, because the payoff was not there in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I pay $28,000 to fly you guys there? What did I get? As Nintendo, I'm not saying I blame, but I'm saying as Nintendo, what did I get by paying $30,000 just for your rooms? Because I think we gave you a pass or two into the Disney parks. Now Disney picked up a lot of it too, but we had to pay for some of it. And the food and all that, and the airlines and all that kind of stuff. Like, what did Nintendo get out of this? We got 50 happy families. Was it really worth it to pay $10,000 or $1,000 or $2,000 to get to each family in cash versus And so that's why you saw that, like the video that you posted at the very beginning and showed where the kid gets $10,000. Yeah, because it's like, hey, this is so much simpler. It's just we didn't have the nightmares. We didn't have to hire an agency. So let me rephrase this. We gave $50,000 in '92 to the winners. Mm-hmm. We ended up giving $50,000 to the winners of the Campus Challenge, plus another $200,000 in expenses. And that's where we backed out of that and said, yeah, this is not worth it. Now, when we partnered in '94 with Nickelodeon, et cetera, then we were like, okay, we're going to get TV coverage and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so it was well worth it for that.
All right. Yeah, because I was like,
great.
I'm the only Campus Challenge champion. The person who had their name drawn out of a hat, he did not play a playoff. He just got
great question.
A drawing.
Yep, great question. It's all about money. Yeah.
Shocking. But '94, you did the partnership.
Yep.
I still want to meet Thor Ackerlund. Do you have any members of the World Championships, or was that before your time?
That was in the finals. It wasn't in the finals. It was before my time. Let me say it this way, because again, I started there in September, and the finals were in November. So it was 2 months after I started there. And I remember working there, going, "What's all the hype?" And everyone's talking about all these finals and stuff like that. And then 9 months later, the movie came out and all that. So yeah. But I remember, so for those of you that don't know, or don't understand this, is the Powerfest, the original, like you called it, the World Championships. The original Powerfest concept was, and the actual program was, we went in and rented the Kingdom, which is no longer around. We rented Jacob Javits, these huge convention centers or arenas that were covered, and we would set up hundreds of game stations for the kids to play video games on, as well as have a stage for competitions. Mm-hmm. You paid to enter. Yeah. You paid $30 to $50 to enter and play these games. And so Nintendo made shitloads of money as you were just trying to play the games. And then you competed and stuff like that. And as well as like the Kingdom, because again, it's out Seattle, was that they would sell hot dogs and the parking and all that cost. It was like going to a professional sports game. The parents were spending $50, $100 at the time to go with 4 or 5 kids or 4 people in the family to do that. There you go. The Kingdom was a great event because I went to that one. But so it was very interesting how it was done. So when we tried to do it again later, not the Campus Challenge, because we knew there's no way we were going to get college kids of the magnitude that we could, like we did at the World Championships, where literally 100,000 people a weekend walking through the Kingdom to play the games, paying $20, $30 a head, in all these different cities. That's why it was made into a movie, because it was like,
it's like a game convention.
Yes. And then you got to remember, this was coming right off of Atari and destroying the market. And that's where, 85, the video game market, if you go back and watch any of the news broadcasts, is the video game's dead. Video game, you see the huge open trenches as they're dumping millions of video games that never sold into them to bury them.
Much to my chagrin.
Yeah, and but they're Atari, the crap games that they were just pumping and destroying the market. And Nintendo rebuilding this. So get me back on track because I'm going to forget where we were at. But in 1986, Nintendo brings the NES into America, and no one would touch it because Atari had destroyed the market. And so there were 6 people of Nintendo America. Arakawa was the president. They went door to door to local retailers in Seattle first and said, hey, we'll take the whole cost. Just put 8 units on your shelf. Let's see if we can sell them. They went to all the Toys R Us's, all the there was another toy store back then.
KB?
Yes,
KB
thank you. In the malls, in the malls and stuff like that. And they went, and so and they all sold out. And so then KB, the local retailer, said, hey, KB or Toys R Us, hey, you got to get these. And so other stores started calling, and then corporate got involved. And that's what really relaunched the whole video game market. And of course, then Sega came along and jumped on the coattails of Nintendo, which is great. Competition's always good. And so that's how Nintendo got into this. And so all these people, when Super Mario came out, we were past the early adopter stage, if you understand the bell curve, because the early adopters had already brought out the words and saying, oh my God, this is a great product. Everyone's got to try this. Now, again, we had no internet, so there was not that kind of social media talking about this. This is just news broadcast saying, hey, there's this guy here, and he's into video games. There's this new thing called the NES, and so you'd go on TV and say, this is really great, this is really fun, or kids in school just talking to each other. It was true word of mouth, verbal, not written on a social media post or anything like that. And that's what really got them going, which got us to the World Championships, which got us to the 100,000 people a weekend to come and play these. And so it was just, oh my God, I remember that. So when I first started there in September, we were just killing one of our products. We made a sewing machine that would connect to the NES, and you could sew clothes. And it failed miserably. I mean, worse than the mat. I don't remember what they call it, the mat that you ran on. And
I know what it is.
Yeah.
The fence ran on it.
Rob the Robot sold better than the mat. The mat was because it was so slippery. It was just
I know. It's the Power Pad, I think is what it's
called.
called.
Something like that, yeah. The Power Glove, and I saw someone mention that earlier, that was brilliant. It just never worked, but it was brilliant. We were so excited when we first got it, and we're playing with it, and it's just like, oh, it's just a controller on your arm, which just sucks. The Power Glove. Yeah, the mat, Power Pad. Yeah, that was just, it was bad. Bad.
Well, but it was I know people, it'd be good for exercise, I thought, but
oh, sure.
You would slip if you were wearing socks.
Oh, yeah, everyone was.
If you were wearing shoes, then it would have been better.
But when it's on carpet, too, it's just slippery underneath. Is that they didn't think when they manufactured, like, put Velcro on the bottom or something. And remember Duck Hunt, I want to back up real quick. Duck Hunt is what really sold it in 86, is that all, because adults could sit there and shoot a duck. Yeah, there's the Power Glove, which was not Nintendo. This was a license.
Yes.
And that which is good because Nintendo didn't take the hit. I think if Nintendo would launch this, like Rob the Robot, I think they've been really hurting. But they did okay. So I used to so we would get let's back up a little bit. I was public relations spokesperson. And there was a guy named Howard Phelps who was also a public relations spokesperson. If you ever read Power magazine, there was Howard and Nestor, and they were cartoon characters. It was a cartoon that was in every month.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I'm missing 2 issues of the whole series. The whole magazine.
Yep. So Howard always wore a bow tie, and the Howard and Nestor also wore a bow tie, and everyone called me Nestor because that's who they thought I was. I'm like, no, I'm not Nestor. But my point being is that Howard, because of the bow tie and his red hair, looked very much like Howdy Doody, and he was very well spoken. I learned a lot from him, but he was not taken, I want to say, seriously, and this is not the right word. So they chose me to constantly testify in court cases because Nintendo was always in court. The number one reason they were in court was parents were suing Nintendo because the NES caught on fire and burned down their house.
What?
And it never did. And we were always able to prove that it didn't. One of the biggest reasons, because it was UL approved. Number 2 was hundreds of millions of these things sold globally, and there were 3 in the United States. So I was always flown in to testify in the cases, and I was never testifying about, yes, they caught on fire, no, they didn't catch it. It was more like, at Nintendo, do you guys advocate, safe, connecting to your TV? And I'm like, yes, as a customer service rep, etc. This is what we'd walk through to tell the juries. And then, of course, we always found innocent. We were never found guilty that we caused this fire to have happened. But there were many NESs that would be sent in to us that were melted. And when I say many, I'd see maybe one a month that were just melted, and we would replace them for free. And we would study them. We had a whole engineering department that would take them apart to try to figure out what caused it. 99% of the time, it was because TVs back in the day. How do I say this? They would put the NES next to a window, and the heat from the window, the sun would just melt the plastic and stuff like that as they were playing. And just so much heat from the TVs, the tube TVs, and all that, and the windows. And we would figure it out because we'd always go back to the customer when they sent it. It was like, hey, can you send us a picture of where it was located? And they would send us a picture. I was like, oh, because we wanted to learn. And it was like, oh, you have it on top of your old big ass tube TV in front of the window as you're playing. So the heat from the tube, the heat from the sun, and I would say 75% of the burns that we got on these NESs were exactly because of just all that heat.
Drop the screw in the tuna. Yes. The biggest problem I've seen with the NES and any Nintendo console, the gray went kind of yellow over the years.
Yeah.
My GameCube used to be a nice clean gray, and now it's kind of yellowed a bit. The controllers are a different color now than the console.
Yep. That's just the plastics, I guess. I don't. You're right, because in everything I've ever owned, nothing has ever yellowed like that. I don't think in plastics.
Yeah, the purple NES. Yeah, it would change color too, and it's like And then they put these videos out where they soak it in some solution and then restore the color somehow.
Oh, I never saw that. Oh well.
The shell, they take the thing completely apart.
Oh, all right. Yeah, no. So we were in 90. We were selling so many in America, we had to build a new warehouse, which we built it outside of Seattle, outside of Redmond. And I remember as it was being built, because I was interviewed about this by the local media and stuff, as we were building, we had to lay down the cement that this new warehouse was going to be built on. Mm-hmm. Once the cement was laid, and before they started the construction of the actual warehouse, we had to register with the FAA as an emergency landing place for airplanes, because that's how big. It was the largest warehouse in the United States at the time. And then we built it, and then I remember not testifying, but being in the news because it was all robotic, and everyone's interviewing me like, why aren't you hiring humans? And I had to talk about, it's all robots, and it's all they're doing is going and picking up 5 pallets of NES and putting them on the freaking truck. But very same problems that we have today. AI is going to take over our jobs. The robots are going to take over our jobs. I mean, this is 30 years ago, and it's, we adapt and we change. And I don't know why I'm going there in this kind of an interview or talk, but, we've all adapted. And it's like this is the same thing today with AI. But back then it was, these robots are going to destroy the warehousing business and the humans working there. No, you just had to be, better at what you did, meaning being an engineer to fix the robots, etc. Yeah. People still have to drive the trucks, even today. So, yeah.
I will say, Rob, was there ever any intention to make more games than just the 2 that did come out for the robotic operating buddy?
I could swear in Japan there were like 20 or 30. But we're going to back up to early in the conversation. At the beginning, we used to use Chuck E. Cheese to do our research. And then we built a facility next to our Nintendo headquarters with all these mirrors and stuff like that. And we would bring in the kids right after school, feed them pizzas. The parents would bring them. We put the parents in a separate room, and we would just sit there, no adults, and just let them play the games, whether it was Rob the Robot or whatever. And so I do remember, I can't say Rob the Robot, but I do remember many games that we brought in there that were Japanese, and they played and they hated them, and we never released them here in America.
Yeah.
And so I have a feeling that's what happened with Rob the Robot. It was just we do our testing with the kids, and the kids hated it. And so it's like, why are we going to bring this?
I will ask. This also brings up another interesting question. So there was a number of games that were released in Japan or not released at all Is there any games from back in the day that you remember playtesting before that you wish did come out that didn't?
Okay. Oh, that didn't? That I don't remember. I do remember the whole Final Fantasy.
Mhm.
And I remember playing all the Final Fantasies. Final Fantasy 1 came out here in America. But
Yeah.
in Japan, they were already up to Final Fantasy 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And we got those games. I remember playing them all in Japanese, not understanding everything, but understanding enough. And being the younger you are, the easier it is to adapt and figure out shit. Where the older you get, it's more difficult. But I remember playing, and they never released. I don't remember. I'm going to guess. I'll just say they didn't release 3 and 5 here. They
Right.
took 4 and made that number 3 here in America. You follow me? They made 6 number 5. And I don't remember why they did not do that. I think it might have been too much sexual content or something that they weren't, that they knew the American public wouldn't accept. Or they would be up in arms. And Nintendo at the time, let me back up a little bit more to educate you. Yep.
I have a follow-up question for that since you just mentioned that.
Yeah, so, but let me go down this path. This is something that I learned on my blog. I've written about this many times. At Nintendo, I learned something very, very important. And that was who the gatekeeper was and what the gatekeeper was and how in marketing, the gatekeeper is the all-important person. And when I talk to young, and because I give classes, I'm a business coach, I'm a life coach, et cetera, especially with C-suite executives, that's what I do in my today world now, is I help managers, et cetera, understand their markets and understand their employees and how to be good managers and how to be good leaders. And I always ask them this question, like, who in your market that you're selling this product to is your gatekeeper? And Nintendo taught me the gatekeeper is not the child. The gatekeeper, who holds the money? Who makes that decision to give the money to purchase that product? That's your gatekeeper, and that's where all your marketing efforts should go. Now, with that said, the other side of the marketing coin is who's going to drive that gatekeeper insane to pull the money out of their freaking pocket to purchase it. So we want the kids to be screaming at the gatekeeper, the parent, I want this game, over and over and over until eventually the gatekeeper pulls out the money and buys the freaking game. But if you do not address the gatekeeper's concerns, and that's where I'm going with this sexual content, if I remember right, no matter what, they're going to put the kid in their place and say, we're not buying this freaking game, because there's this content in it. So you've got to address both sides of that coin. But most importantly, the gatekeeper, the guy that has the money, because that's who's going to actually pay your salary. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You had a follow-up question.
This was before games were rated.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember. Oh, my God. See, now you brought that on. I remember doing interviews on that because it was the Washington State senator that we worked with. I don't remember.
It was not Joe Lieberman, but he was involved. I know.
Yeah, no, but he was out of Connecticut. But yeah, this was, I could see him clearly because I had dinners with him. And again, I did not do anything. I was just there as the young gameplay counselor representing, the fun of Nintendo. That's the only reason. Again, I was pretty then. I had beautiful hair.
Yeah.
I looked young, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wish I had a full head of hair. Now I'm feeling like, why is everybody I know shaving their head now?
Right, and so I had to. Here's a picture.
Full screen here.
There's a picture of me as a kid.
Or as a young 20-something.
Yeah,
Look
24.
how handsome that man is.
Look at the hair. Yeah, no, I have my here's the People magazine, all those kind of stuff. So yeah, so I still have some things like that I like to brag about. But yes, I remember when that happened in '89 and being on the news and constantly talking about ratings. But we worked with them so that we could get the ratings the way we wanted them to be as best we could within Congress and the laws and stuff. Of course, any lobbying, I guess you could say, like anything, you're going to do that. But yeah, there was no rating.
Although all the daggum push to get ratings established was due to a little game called Night Trap, which happened to be a live-action game starring Dana Plato, the late Dana Plato of Different Strokes, and then Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, Mortal. But you got to remember also, I think the trigger for this whole thing was music and putting it on the albums, because that came a year or 2 years right before. More than that, like 4 or 5 years before us. I was on the music lyrics, because they were not happy with that.
That'd been an issue for decades, even before gaming. video
Correct.
gaming was even thought of.
Correct. And that's what I'm saying, the trigger. I was just saying it was so simple to just bring that right over. Go, well, music has it. We need to have it on video games. So, yeah.
Well, ditto with movies, obviously.
Yep. Yeah.
I will. So the follow-up question was this: Nintendo was a little more restrictive on content compared to Sega, for instance.
Absolutely. We had very strong standards. Our whole licensing department. And it was interesting. The licensing department in Nintendo was 3 ladies that licensed everything out, from video games to plushes, stuffed animals to blankets, and they reviewed every single freaking thing to make sure. And to this day, I still see it in the news. As Nintendo sues, this children's camp because they're using Yoshi on the wall, to get it removed. If you want to protect,
that's so dumb. That's so idiotic.
To sue.
No, suing because somebody painted a mural in their daggum campus because they're being fanboys.
Yeah, but to me, but again, if they don't sue it, they first send a letter saying please remove it, and then no, screw you, we're not going to remove it, blah blah blah. But this is something I learned and I respect. That's your IP. It's like a drug. That a drug company makes it. So that's your IP. That's where you're going to make your money. If you let people start butchering your IP, your intellectual property, your characters, whatever, and we've all seen that. And I'm sure, yes, your audience has definitely seen that, where we watched, and not just video games, but a great movie, and how they took the character and then bastardized it and just destroyed it. And again, not through licensing, some other Russian or North Korean or whatever, they just took it and made it themselves. And you're like, oh my God, that's embarrassing. But that's the point, is that you want to have that IP so that for the rest of your life, forever and ever, you can use that IP the way it was meant to be. And so, yes, yes, I do still see the suing, but I totally respect it and get it. Because you spent all this money of building Yoshi, the character, or whatever, or Mario, and just to protect it and keep it. And so, and I get, and so the licensing, where I said the through and so that was their job, was to find those. They had lawyers in every country that would just look for the stuff to stop it, but also they had lawyers in every country that would review people that legitimately wanted to use it and make a plush of Mario. So there was criteria that had to be met, make sure the right colors, all that kind of stuff, right size, and all that. And so then we'd say, yes, you're going to give us, I have no clue, but let's say 25% of your money or whatever profit you're going to pay to us, because you're licensing that's what licensing is. And it was the same with video games. I remember the video game testers that would look and play the games to make sure they would work, but they would call me up, Blaine, watch this, and you would see a sex scene, and you're like, oh my God, yeah, we're not going to let this happen. We got to said this can't go out.
I wonder what game that was that had a sex scene that was an 8-bit sex scene, because
Well, this was an 8. This was in your 16-bit, but there was the one 8-bit game. It was a sniper game.
Yeah.
And it was you were looking into their room from your skyscraper into their skyscraper.
Rescue.
What?
It's called Rescue, and I remember the game.
And the man and woman came together, and then the shades came over, and you saw the shadows, and the lights turned off as the shadows came together. And I remember that. I remember doing interviews on it. Everyone's like, "Oh, this is so risque," and I'm like, "It's okay. It is. I get it from the late '80s."
Yeah, you're fighting terrorists here,
Yeah, exactly. But it was just like, oh my God, but you easy, and again, it's all imagination. You imagine them. Yeah.
That's it. Although this is the NES version. I played the Commodore 64 version of this. This is more elaborate.
No, you're wow. Holy shit, Steve! I can't believe you have this stuff.
Well, I pulled this is on YouTube, so
I get it. Yep, there it is. Yep. Yeah.
So that's a track screen, but gameplay.
And so, I remember on this one, they were like, "Do we let it go or not?" And we're like, "Yes, we are." And then it blew up, and it didn't blow up badly in our face, but again, you always push the boundaries. And so it was the first time in video gaming you're pushing the boundaries, where now we're going to have a little bit of sex in it, kind of, whatever you want to call it. And then you get more, and now today's games are just,
I don't remember this game having sex scenes, though. That's the thing.
It's not. Again, you saw them in the room together as they came together, and then the lights went out, and so that was it. No. The ones I'm talking about were much worse, and they would not allow it. So
there was a game called Sweet Home, which was kind of the precursor to Resident Evil, and you're battling. In fact, I'll pull that up in a second. It's yeah, it was just kind of. It only came out in Japan.
Okay.
I downloaded a fan's translation to play it all the way through, and here we go. This was a Capcom game, obviously, because who they did Resident Evil. So this is I believe the translated version, although it came out several years before that. No, I got to skip ahead, but basically you're running around, and the key little thing about this game, they would approach a door and then it would go to a cutscene of you opening the door, kind of like Resident Evil.
Right.
But they're trying to, I guess, take pictures of paintings in this game.
Right.
Party of 5.
And so some of the paintings might have been a little risque. Got it. Wow.
Well, I didn't think they were. It was just more like the horror scenes was what.
Oh, yeah.
Because blood, guts,
yep.
Jump scares and stuff.
Right.
That wasn't really available on the NES, or at least licensed. I know there was a game called Chiller by Exidy that was released by a non-licensed NES game producer. I can't remember the manufacturer, but I think it was something America. I don't know.
Huh.
But the arcade game was just as bad.
Right.
Galvin Ghost has it. It was like you're shooting up innocent people and reducing them to like hamburger or something.
Right.
That
we I don't know. We never. It was understood. It was never stated to all the employees that we respect the parents, that we respect the parents' rights over their children, that we want to keep the innocence. We want them to have fun, but we want to keep the innocence. And I'm like, I was never directly taught that. That was said to me. Mm-hmm. So here's a funny story. So they chose me to become their public relations spokesperson. And they said, all right, you got to go get media training. If you don't know this, but people that get on camera and stuff are media trained, meaning how to talk to the media, how to present themselves, etc. And so they flew me down to LA, and I spent 2 weeks in LA getting media trained. And with another Nintendo guy that was supposed to also be part of us, Jack. God, I wonder whatever happened to him. He became a priest. But I'm like, is he still alive? That's what I'm asking. So we're media trained, and it was Walter Cronkite, before he went on the news every day, for those of us that are old, he would meet with he had an on-staff media trainer that would run him for just 3 to 5 minutes. Let's talk about what the top stories are, and then he would work himself through how he's going to say and stuff, so that when he came on camera, he could present himself the way he was, which was brilliant, right. Very professional. His name was Alan. Oh, crap. So Alan trained me and this other guy, Jack. Because Walter was dead, but that's what he still did. And so when we were getting trained, we would be like, we landed at the airport, and we walked out, and there'll be a car there for you. And Alan had a camera crew ready and ran up to us. A camera crew with a reporter. Hey, we hear Nintendo just killed 22 people, in their headquarters. What can you say about that? Just to see how we'd react. And then the next day, or it was that night, I remember we were sleeping in a hotel room, banging on the hotel room, open the door, we open it, and there's a camera crew, we're standing there in underwear and pajamas, whatever. It's like, hey, we hear Nintendo is destroying children's mind. What do you think? And that was a brilliant way to teach us. Always be on, always be prepared, always be ready. And so, again, it kind of breaks the illusion that we're surprised. But anyone that's in politics, anyone that's in corporate, media, anything like that where you're talking, we've all been media trained. And where you've been such media trained like I have with the experience that I've had throughout my life, because I always have worked with the media throughout my whole career, and doing interviews and stuff like that, is that when you see on TV, you can immediately tell those have been trained and those that haven't. Even those that you think haven't been trained, you're looking at it and you see them do one thing and you're like, they've been trained. And it's like, okay, they're acting surprised, or this is new to them. It's not. They're ready for this. They're prepared for this. And so it's that illusion is shattered. And it's just sad, because you really want that innocent person to be interviewed. But it's like, no, they're not innocent. They know exactly how to say this and what to say. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about the media training. It was fun. It was one of those, again, moments in my life at the age of 22 to be thrown in this track. I've been blessed. Just my whole
Yeah,
family.
this is the type of scene right here that they probably Nintendo did not want to put out.
Yeah,
This
no.
is the best scenes of the characters of Sweet Home.
I'm trying to think of. I don't think we use the word died much. It's like, your character expired, that kind of stuff. It was never, or your character died. It wasn't like you died and you're dead.
Although Dragon Warrior, I think, maybe.
Well, yeah, that's a little
said
later. Yeah, no, I remember. Yeah,
What I
amazing.
was getting at earlier,
Yep.
Nintendo censored. I got the wrong video up. I showed a game first, which did not come out to America because apparently the theme was considered objectionable. This is called Devil World. It's like Pac-Man, but you have the disco dancing devil at the top,
Right.
making the maze shift. But they didn't want to release this game in America because devil, crosses, Bibles.
So you're so knowledgeable. What was the game that had the Indian symbol in it that represents a swastika, but it's not. It's the Indian swastika that everyone went nuts over with Nintendo. Because we had one, and you were playing it, you were in India, and you went into the Taj Mahal or whatever, and there it is, and it's the Nazi swastika, and it's like, no, this is the Indian swastika. And they're very similar.
Indiana Jones, maybe.
No.
I don't remember. I don't know. I'm not sure what.
And again, I had to go and do TV interviews on it and saying, no, guys.
Anybody in the chat know what game that could be?
If you guys go, I remember doing the interviews going, if you just go and study Indian culture and just go look at pictures of the Taj Mahal, and you'll see the swastika everywhere. So it was whatever character was walking through India. I want to say almost like Final Fantasy or one of the fantasy games or something, but everyone went nuts thinking that we're doing that. I'm trying to think of what there was one other game too that caused an uproar here in America. There was the one with the swastika. I mean, when I say uproar, I'm saying national news.
Yes, game that.
I wish I threw them all away because I had every interview I ever did on cassette, on VHS, and my wife was so upset. But yeah,
10. Boy, there's a top 10 list of most controversial NES games. Abadox, Deadly Towers, River City Ransom, Castlevania 2. Well, Castlevania had crosses, and they removed those from the American release for some reason. Karnoff had cutscenes in the Japanese version. They took all that out. They made the game worse when they Americanized it. Which was like, they should have left that in. Because when you beat the game, you had you won the game, but congratulations. Like, what the heck is this?
Right. Yeah, no, that's your Nintendo. And again, I really respect it. It's that you draw a line and you don't cross it, because once you do, everything's getting away. And that's why Sega. That's why I think Sega did so well too, is that they were able to go after that market of those people that didn't care, or was okay with them or whatever, and that's okay. And then they picked up that market share and owned that and got that.
Yeah, Street Fighter 2, Nintendo threw a fit about the blood, and it's like the NES release, they just made it sweat and spit only, and then for Mortal Kombat, they turned it into uppercutting sweat off their bodies. Like, that didn't go over well.
Right.
And eventually, somewhere along the way, Nintendo caved and started, because everybody else was doing it. And they're the last holdouts.
Yeah.
The rating system was established.
Right. And I think also, isn't Street Fighter 2 what really put Sega on the map?
Sonic the Hedgehog.
No, Sonic came later. There was one, because we were here and Sega was way down here, and they came out, I could swear it was Street Fighter 2 or something, and they came up like this. I mean, Sonic allowed them to go like this. But Street Fighter made them recognize, like, oh, they have a good game, and there was the blood in it. I want to say Street Fighter 2, I may be wrong. But then so that's when Nintendo really became aware that we're going to have competition here in America.
Yeah.
And so Sony came out and really put them on par with us. Great. And then we came out with Game Boy.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I mean, to this day, Game Boy is what sells, and for the last 2 decades, it's really been Game Boy of the billions of dollars a year globally that they're making off of Game Boy, which is amazing to me, and I think it's beautiful that what a long-standing product. There's so few products that have lasted like that over
Yeah.
decades and made such money they did. But Game Boy allowed us, because I remember, I want to say 93, 94, in some of our meetings and stuff like that, where Game Boy allowed us to breathe, because it's like, yeah, we might get our ass kicked in the console, but Game Boy, we can take some losses. Let me say that in console right now, but Game Boy is going to keep us going, because we know Game Boy is going to turn their games into console, or console is going to go to Game Boy.
Yeah.
And again, they built it right. So let me hold on. Another thing that I learned at Nintendo, and it's going back to the gatekeeper, but it was also why we did these promotions, and that I did. And it was not yours, the Campus Challenge. It was more the World Challenge, the Powerfest is the World Championships, that kind of stuff. If I can get that kid to enjoy Nintendo today, when he has kids and he goes into Toys R Us to go, do I get a Sega or do I get a Nintendo? We want them to buy Nintendo. And
I want it both.
Yeah, but
and the TurboGrafx.
Yeah, but that's why you see the Game Boys to this day still being sold, because those kids have Game Boys. They want their kids, because you don't need a Game Boy when you have your phone today for the kids.
Yeah.
Why are the parents buying the Game Boys? Because Nintendo did such a great job when they were kids, educating them that here's the Game Boy. It's safe. It's not connected to the internet. You can sit and play games for hours, all that kind of stuff. And so over since I did it, that's been 3 generations ago, and they're still buying $5 to $10 billion worth a year of Game Boys, of these gatekeepers that we trained back when we first started this back in the late 80s. And so to me, that's amazing. And it hinges everything on what we've just been talking about, how their ethics and their morals, because those kids remember, wow, mom and dad wouldn't let me buy Sega, or they would let me play when I was 14, but not when I was 10. They made me play Nintendo. And so the same thing. Now I have kids that are 5 years old. They can play Nintendo. I'll get them a Sega or whatever. Not a Sega, but they'll get them a Microsoft, a Xbox, or a PlayStation or whatever, when they turn 15 or whatever. They can wait a little bit longer because Nintendo's safe. And a lot of parents enjoyed that. And to this day, it still proves that success, because look at their sales numbers.
Yeah. So, obscure Nintendo lore. Well, actually, I touched on games that you wish that you play tested, that you wish came out but didn't come out for whatever reason. There's one particular title that was mentioned in the official Nintendo's Player Guide, one issue, or the last issue of Nintendo Fun Club News. That would be the so-called Return of Donkey Kong. Was that game was mentioned, but nothing after that was ever seen. Was that game ever started, or was that just a concept they created and it ended up being Donkey Kong Country much later? It was just a teaser. They no screenshots. It just says, we're going to make a game. Yeah.
Yep. I remember this because I remember being asked doing interviews, when is this coming out and stuff. We did not know the name. We didn't have a name. And that's what, and you hit it. You were spot on with Donkey Kong Country. We did not know what we were going to call it. That next version, which happens on a lot of them, because I remember when Super Mario 3 came out, we were all like, please don't let it be 3. And they all asked, we all talked, and we did the focus groups with the kids. It's like, would you be excited about a Donkey Kong 3? Or not Donkey Kong, Super Mario 3. And the kids were like, yeah, that's great, Super Mario. And we had a brand built. I'm not saying that we would have removed the Super Mario. We would have kept that, but should have been Super Mario The Next Adventure instead of Super Mario 3.
Yeah.
And so the kids are like, no, we have no problem with that. Donkey Kong, this back to Andrew Cunningham.
Yeah.
And in his book, he writes about this. Is Donkey Kong Country caused retailers to have some heartburn because we were going to pull away, and we did. We're pulling away from Mario and going towards Donkey Kong as the main character for a while. Very much like Yoshi. Became much more popular, and that was a concerted effort on our part. But for like a Toys R Us or a KB or any of these guys, this means a whole new merchandising that has to be done in their stores.
Right.
And everyone realized that, and the retailers realized, and back to heartburn, is that we got to pull all our Mario shit.
Oh,
We're going to make it all Donkey Kong.
I gotta get this guy. I gotta get this.
Wow.
I got
Wow.
2 of these.
Yeah.
This is the banana,
Right.
but this guy needs to be in the picture for a bit.
Yeah. And so Donkey Kong became a priority of Nintendo's, and that's why you saw it like in the competitions, where we did them and we showed him off a lot because he was all over. If I remember, Power 94 Powerfest, I think we had him on display everywhere, constantly because he came out then. And so we had to show him off.
Although Donkey Kong Country was not at the Powerfest tour. It was not in the tour. It was in the final. But the game got introduced to the world at Summer Consumer Electronics Show because that's when I first encountered it. I didn't encounter it on the tour bus. Well, not the tour bus, but the touring game. Yeah.
So, and this is 94.
Yes.
I didn't have him out on the road?
No, I encountered,
I could swear I did.
I believe the last Consumer Electronics Show was in 1994. Didn't know it was going to be the last one because I created like a business card because you had to be in part of the IT industry to even get in it.
Right.
So I managed to get in.
Right.
I had the time of my life because I was like, would read about in magazines for years and years. I was like, well, I want to go. Why can't I go? And it's like, it's not open to the public.
Right.
And then everybody threw a fit when they opened it to the public that one year.
Yeah.
But the year I went.
This Chicago or Vegas? Okay.
No, I never been to Vegas.
Okay.
So Chicago is a 200-mile drive up for commute for me. But now I go up there all the time because of Galpin Ghost. I went up there to the McCormick Center, and there's this video wall up in the air, and a Donkey Kong head, an animated Donkey Kong head, was going all over it and communicating with the patrons or the employees.
Right. Charles Martinet. His name was Charles Martinet because I put him on the road because we had the animated Mario that would talk with the kids on the road.
Yes.
Charles Martinet. And he still does it to this. Well, he might be dead.
Retired. He retired.
Yeah. But
he's still around.
Yeah, he did it like 7 years ago, I think was our last communication years. He says, I'm still doing this. I'm like, fucking great. He was funny as shit. But we hired him back in 93. I hired him to be my Mario voice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was a talented man.
So that was when I played Donkey Kong Country for the first time, was at Consumer Electronics Show.
But that's June. Because Chicago's June, Vegas is January. And I remember putting 20 cartridges in my luggage and flying out and putting them in the game stations. I don't know when.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't remember what I only recall what I saw.
Yeah. No, it was after CES. I wasn't allowed to put it up before CES. But I could swear I know I did. I went out and I put them out there.
Maybe an after, but
yeah, it was after. No, it wasn't before. I wouldn't have been allowed to show it. That'd be
I know
after.
there was a row of Powerfest stations at the Consumer Electronics Show because I remember doing a round on it.
Yeah. No,
and you were there, and that's where I found you.
Right. Yeah. Oh no, I had to set that all up. So yeah. So in the opening video that you showed, we had Game Boy stations, and if you we had them at the Campus Challenge, and they were on iron barrel. They weren't on iron barrels. They're iron piping that you run water through in cities and stuff. The corrugated steel.
Yeah.
And so we made them like that, and this again something Nintendo taught me, and I've written about this on my blog. The whole freaking article on it is that one of the Japanese guys that came over, he taught me, he's like, think like your market, be like your market. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't really quite understand it until he started showing me things like, how tall is a kid? I'm like, a kid's 3 foot. And he's like, how tall are you? I'm like, 6 foot. He's like, how can you act like a 3-year-old? How can a 3-year-old play this, a 3 foot person or a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old How can they play this game when they're, when you have these displays, these TVs, so they can't see them?
Yeah.
So, like here, like you're showing on your thing right now, where they're all competing, we had stools for college kids or whatever. But we built 20 Game Boy stations because the Game Boy had just come out in '92.
Yeah.
You're going to see a kid playing at one of them here in a moment. And we built them all, and I got down on my knees and I walked up to it and I said, I can't play it. And they're looking at me like, what are you doing then? And I'm like, even on my knees, guys, I'm still 5 foot. I've just lost 1.5 feet, 2 feet maybe. I'm like, and these are our future gatekeepers. We want right there. These things that he's showing right now. And they're like,
back this up a little bit and freeze it.
And so we had spent over $100,000 on making these, and we're like throwing them all away. And we rebuilt them all so that a little kid could come up, and we built them with a step, so that a child could come up and step up and play these Game Boys. And there are many. And I have one of a picture of a little 5-year-old kid standing there playing on it, and it's just like, yep. And again, stuff Nintendo taught me. So to this day, even when like on software that I've been involved with, or USB flash drives. If I'm left-handed, how am I going to use it versus right-handed? If I'm going to write on them or whatever, just think like your market and always position yourself when you're working into a market, which is interesting bringing that up. I can't tell you how many freaking calls when I was a customer service rep. Do you guys have a left-handed controller?
Here's the thing. So the NES controller, Nintendo always put the joystick on the left.
Yeah.
A lot of arcade games put the joystick on the right. I was right-handed, so I'm used to using the joystick with the right hand.
Yep.
Of course, now, depending on the game, I have to play it. If I can do either or, depending on the game. I may want to play the game with my left hand and then use the right hand for the buttons. Or the reverse if it was a different particular game.
So I remember the first time I saw one of our gameplay counselors who was left-handed, he turned the controller over and he played it that way. And I'm like, how do you do that? And he's like, that's how I do it because this is my dominant hand. I want my dominant hand to be pressing the ABs and stuff. I'm like, wow. And so,
This is a GameCube control, but I can kind of do the same thing.
Right.
Here's the cross. Here's the buttons. I held it like this with the thumbs on the back of the controller and I just held it downward like this.
Right.
Because I was basically trial and error. A lot of people thumb it. I don't thumb it.
I never have played on a GameCube. Never played a game on it or anything.
Yeah,
when did it come out?
So I was using this as an example because this was handy.
Yeah. But when did the GameCube come out? 94?
It came out about the very late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay. All right, so way later. So wait, we had Super NES. What came out after Super NES? The GameCube, right?
The 64.
Oh, that was it. Nintendo 64, not Nintendo.
And the Virtual Boy was also in the mix.
Yeah, it
didn't last long. It didn't last long. It only lasted a year, and then they pulled it from market because the screen was like red. There was only like 2 dozen games came out for it.
All right.
After that, the GameCube, then the Wii, the Wii U, the Switch, and the Switch 2, which everybody's up in arms about the Switch 2. They're up in arms about the Switch 2 because of the bricking issue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Nintendo now will detect, you're using the Switch 2 in an illegal way, or you modded it, or you're using a backup game from a Switch 1, or you're using a used Switch 2 game. We're gonna lock down your $500 console and make it essentially useless and no more than a paperweight that powers on.
Yeah, that pissed me off. Wonder why they did that. They're obviously the business side of me, because I've been in business now since I left Nintendo much more. The business side of me is they're losing more money than making, so it's worth it to brick it. They have to brick it because otherwise they're just losing so much, which is unfortunate because that hurts you as a brand.
Yeah.
But I get it. If you want to stay in business, it's like, again, your IP of your logos and stuff. You got to be mean, and so that's sad.
Well, the other problem with that is, let's say you bought a game used off of eBay or something,
Right.
or at a retro game convention, which I go to those all the time. That's where I can get an NES cart or Super NES cart, although they cost tons and tons of money now because those physical media went up in value quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, pretty soon I think a lot of people are going to be forced to are going to be pressuring game developers to release every game as physical media due to the problems with payment processors and Steam right now. The payment processors have forced Steam to only accept payments in only 8 particular currencies due to, this is off topic, but this is a raging controversy currently.
Right.
Oh gosh, yeah, $80 a game. No, I ain't paying that. Although I remember the price gouging with Nintendo games and Super NES games. The newest Zelda, they were price gouging like crazy because there was a chip shortage.
Right.
The DRAM, not so much a problem now.
Right.
And then it was like limited. Oh, each manufacturer could only release 5 games a year.
Yeah.
Which was crazy, but
yeah. I remember when we went from $19 to $24, and I remember being interviewed by the press going, how can you guys justify a $5 increase and stuff? And then I remember we went to $29. And then when I left, I think they were just getting ready to come up with their first $40 game. Expensive.
Well, they're charging up to $50 for Super Mario 3.
Yeah.
At Walmart.
Yeah, maybe that was it. It was like, yeah, that's life. Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't have the latest and greatest. I stopped with the Wii because, well, I'm on the classic arcade kit or arcade quest.
Right.
You know, I'm chasing scores. I didn't chase scores back then.
Right.
Way back when. I would have liked to have submitted scores to Nintendo Power and all the gaming magazines, but I didn't have the appropriate equipment. A digital camera would have been a lot better.
Right.
I'm not videotaping your gameplay. It's not all that great, but it's better than nothing. Which
I'm stunned that people make money doing that. I want to watch someone else play someone else's game that I'm not experiencing. It just amazes.
Twitch, yeah. Twitch.
It just amazes me all the people that do that. And I just started getting ads today where you can watch a guy play a slot machine at a casino, and I'm like, why? Why? There's so much better things to do in my life.
No, I would.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. When I played a game in the last 10 years where I got stuck and I tried for an hour, 2 hours to try to get through it. Yes, I went on YouTube and fast forwarded to where the guy was playing just so I could see how he beat it because I don't have time. I'm not 20 years or 10 years old anymore. I have all the time. Yeah, I just want to get through it and see what it's about or whatever. And so I go and I cheat, but I can't sit there and watch this guy play for 2 hours or 10 hours this whole game. And so, but I'm around enough kids, and I ask them, oh, yeah, I spent 4 hours last night watching some famous guy play this video game. I'm like, what the hell? Read a book. Educate yourself. Do something.
Well, back then, we went searching online for walkthroughs.
Yeah.
We just have a description of what you had to do to get past.
Right.
And obviously, Nintendo Power filled that void also, giving us the information we needed, the maps and crap.
But again, it was also reading and stuff. It's not just being mindless watching a video.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Visuals, yes. Mechanics and crap, yes.
Yeah.
That it was helpful. Made me a better gamer. But nowadays, yes, I kind of, if you're in a tournament like T20,
right,
they pull out 20 new games that are not on the arcade floor, and then you have to learn. You have about 21 hours to grind on 20 different games that you're playing for the first time.
That's nice.
That ain't easy.
Right, and that sounds like fun. But do I want to watch you for 21 hours learning those games? No, I want to be part of that. I want to play the game myself to understand it.
Yeah.
And get the endorphins, the excitement of, I beat that or I didn't. You know, I don't know, and you could easily speak to this much easier than I can, but I remember the first time that I beat Mike Tyson. I remember, the first time in Street Fighter, I won the championship. and those endorphins, and they didn't take me thousands of hours of gameplay to get there. And I get it, and I get now people saying, "Oh, spending $80 for a game, I want $1,000 worth, 1,000 hours worth of gameplay." But I'm just wondering if games give you that same endorphin high, because to me, COD, the PvP games, yes, they give you that endorphin, but I think it's a different type. You follow me? Killing someone that you don't know in Japan that's playing the game versus, I don't know, but versus me beating an engineer that sat there, or a programmer that sat there for hours trying to think, I'm going to make this guy so difficult that there's only one unique way, and to figure out how to do it. I guess they're the same. Because the human element is never unique. Or every time it's unique, it's not the same. But I don't know, when I play.
I get is basically beating the house high and getting my name on the card.
Right. To me, I never feel the sense of accomplishment when I win one of the COD tournaments or whatever. It's like, okay, I won.
The COD tournaments, I mean,
well, not that kind of a tournament.
Out,
but not that kind of a tournament. I'm just saying online, where 6 guys get together in a room and shoot each other, and then you just hit reset.
Oh yes, multiplayer, first-person shooters,
but it's just like, okay, I won that one. Next one I lose. Next one I lose. Next one I win. Next one I lose. It's like, Now, granted, Mike Tyson, I beat him once, but
there is a cheat. Yeah, back then we'd use a cheat code to warp to Tyson, and
you're funny.
There's that code you put in, and then you play Tyson, and you'd redo the thing multiple times until you started learning the pattern.
Right, and that's just See, it's funny because I was the gameplay counselor supervisor and trainer. I trained all the gameplay counselors, and you were given on the day one some rules and regulations. You cannot use a cheat code. And so
or Game Genie.
Right, well, and you could not use a bottle cap on an Advantage controller to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, the A/B to make the punches or whatever. If we caught you using a cheat code, you became a customer service rep, or you quit, or you're fired. You're no longer as a gameplay counselor. You needed to play especially Mike Tyson, you had to fight every fighter, because a kid's going to call you and he's not fighting Mike Tyson. He's really frustrated because he's on his. And remember, when Nintendo first started, this was not an 800 number. You had to pay money to talk to a gameplay counselor. And so, a lot of times the parents were on the line with the kids going, make sure that they're not just chit chatting. But you couldn't sit there and just only know Mike Tyson. You had to know every single boxer that you're going to box against. And so
I will say this.
Yeah.
Decades later, after the game came out.
Yeah.
Someone finally discovered the key to timing the punch to Bald Bull's belly was a camera flash in the audience.
Yeah.
Apparently, nobody knew that or noticed that for 2 or 3 decades.
Oh, we knew that.
But apparently, nobody else did.
Yeah, no, we all knew that, and we never. There was many a debate, and again, as the training supervisor, my job was to, and this is when I was doing the PR for the company before I went to marketing. But as a training supervisor, and I did it just for a year, but every game that came out, and we found out there was a cheat code or that there was a giveaway, the flash bulb in the audience, as we would sit there and deliberate, is do we tell kids this or not? Yeah, because as soon as you do, the game loses value. Because they did not, back to the endorphins, they did not discover it on their own. And that's what we wanted, because that's what gave the kid the sense of accomplishment. But also, that's what made them appreciate Nintendo, so that when they became an adult, they remembered those special moments of beating the games, and they wanted to buy Nintendo for their kids. This is how Nintendo Japan thought. And to this day, they still think this way. And I think it's brilliant. And I've taken it to everything in my business going, how are we going to keep these people keep buying our product into the future?
Right.
A lot of companies don't give a shit, but some companies do, like a Nintendo. And so we knew that. And I remember debating that on all those, the cheat code for Tyson, the flash bulb with Bald Bull or whatever his name was. And there was another guy in there that had a cheat. And we're not going to tell them. We will not tell them. And so I do remember we did tell them on some, but the parent got on the line And they're like, my kid is crying. He's been trying 5 days. He can't do it. And so we had to get a lead that would approve it. And we'd be on the line with the gameplay counselor and talk to the parents, say, all right, here's how you can beat them. And that's up to you now as a parent to tell the child how to beat the game.
Yeah.
And so it was never, we just would never just tell the kid straight up, do left, right, up, down, whatever, or whatever. Like Zelda in the Forest, it got published in a major magazine. And that's why we just flipped and said, all right, we're going to tell everyone how to get through the forest now in Zelda. Because it was out there. But if it was not out there, we kept it buried as long as we could.
Yeah. All right. I was trying to think if there was something I wanted to ask you before, because we've gone 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we have. It's been good.
It's an hour ahead for you. I don't want to keep you up too late, because I certainly don't. If I could think of something off the top of my head, because I've had, as I mentioned before this pod began, I was like, all the stuff was going on at work today, and it's like, and everybody's demanding time for this off hours.
Right.
That had nothing to do with my job.
Right.
And I was like, give me a break, guys. Right. I know, I'm under such a severe time crunch. Here's why I'd watch people play games on Twitch.
Yeah.
It's kind of like watching a movie. And I didn't own the game, and I don't have time to play a game, and it's like I'm just watching the guy play and watching the story unfold as they're playing it, while I'm doing other things while they're playing, and kind of throwing encouragement, interacting with people in the stream as the game is going on.
Sir, that's a great argument. That's a great argument. That I could actually see. I totally get it.
And of course, for Paul Tessie's case, I want to see him get the world record on the original tourney cartridges.
Right.
And I did see him get over that finish line, get the maximum amount that he could get, that they could conceive and plan out. But it took a lot of memorization.
Right.
Because
There are and that's where, back to Nintendo again, they did a lot of their games with the memorization of understanding. But again, it's back to, I remember many times going out on tour at all these different promotions, and kids coming up to other kids going, oh, this is simple to beat. You just got to do blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And the kid, but watching that kid's face go, some of them were ecstatic because now they got the answer. And some of them were like, oh, I really wanted to discover it on my own. Mm-hmm. Interesting case in point. Arguably, you can say what I'm about to say can be argued, and that is more girls were upset being told the cheat code than the boys. The boys were, I can beat it, because they wanted to go right to the next thing. The girls, when they played the games, they wanted to beat it on their own. They did not want that cheat code. And what's popping into mind is I remember a couple times where girls were playing next to boys, and they heard one boy say to the other boy, here's how you beat this, and they cheated. And the girls next to him going, shut up, and back in the day saying whatever they were saying is not all the swear words like they would say today and stuff, but you could tell they were really disappointed. They did not want that answer. They wanted to try it on their own, which always led me to believe that girls, and I said this in interviews, girls were better game players than boys. And I said, boys will be persistent, and they will keep running their head against the wall. The girl will figure out, how can I get past the wall without hitting myself and killing myself so much?
Yeah.
Which leads to the bigger question, and we all know this, is why are parents so bad at playing video games compared to their kids? And back in when I was 20, my answer was always this. Kids are willing to take a risk. They understood it was a video game. They didn't care. They're willing to spend the 5 minutes again to run against the wall until they found the opening, the fake opening, the hidden opening in the wall, where a parent has to look and figure it out, and they'll try, they'll touch it. Nope. Okay, start all over again. The kid will just keep doing it. And that's because the kids are willing to take a risk. And it's funny because I was just having a discussion yesterday with a CEO of a company, and I used this analogy. And I said, here's the kids. They're willing to try it over and over and over, but as adults, we're not willing to take that risk. You're the CEO of this company. Why are you not willing to take this risk of what we were discussing? And I said, there's no monetary risk. It's just time. And so, and you're not losing 3 months. You're losing a couple hours to make this decision and try it again. Why don't you just take that risk? And I brought up the whole video game. I'm like, when we were kids playing, and he was a video game player as a kid,
Yeah.
We ran against the wall over and over. And he's like, yeah, I have lost that. I'm like, adults do. Because we don't like we're fearful of the risk. We don't want to risk something. And I said, and that's something that's lost to a lot of people. When you can gain that back, you're going to be much more successful to take that risk, to risk the fear, to be fearful and maybe lose. Again, failure leads to success. You cannot be successful if you don't understand and have not experienced failure.
Especially on venture games. Those
Yes.
Sierra games were notorious for that.
Exactly.
Died 100 times before you can get past the puzzle.
Right. But again, the sense of accomplishment. And that's where, and I'm not, I would never say to a CEO, let's do this 900 times. But it's like, let's take a couple risks here. You haven't even taken a risk. Let's take a risk and see what the hell happens. And, like I said back when I was 20 or 23, 24, 25 as PR, when I was talking to reporters and stuff about parents and stuff, I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You die. A kid understands it. I die. I'm going to be resurrected, come right back and play again. That's fine. A parent is like, I've got to do this all over again. I got to spend this time. A kid, that's nothing to us. Time is precious. To the kid, it's not. And so how many times are we willing to risk it? Try it once or twice. At 50% of the time, you're going to be successful. And so was it worth it the 50% of the time you were successful, or 0% not successful because you weren't willing to take the risk?
Yeah.
And so, take the risk.
Any favorite road story memory that you had working at Nintendo that comes to mind if somebody were to ask you that question, like me?
Well, since we're talking about, there's two of them, and hopefully I'll remember one. One's an earthquake. I'll bring that up second one. So I'm for the first time I meet up with the Powerfest crew, and we met. They had already set up the Powerfest. This is Powerfest 91 or whatever, 90. And I flew in, and let's meet tonight at Hooters. I said, all right. So we all meet up at the Hooters, and they're all wearing wedding rings. And these are all young kids. If you remember back in the camp, these are 20 to 30-year-olds. The semi-drivers were usually 30 to 40, but all the kids that worked the stages, that set everything up, they were all young kids, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And they're all wearing wedding rings. And I'm like, what the hell are you guys wearing wedding rings for? Oh, this is Campus Challenge. I'm sorry. This is exactly Campus Challenge.
Okay.
And campus girls, they'll go out with married guys and they'll sleep with us. If we didn't have the rings, they wouldn't look at us. And I'm like, holy shit. So, of course, I get a wedding ring. Did I ever get laid or anything? No. But my lesson was, my wife always laughs at me. She's like, just because you're a nerd. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I am. Point being is that I learned there's a different life out there that I ever thought of, being from Montana, being in the Nintendo world, and then seeing how roadies lived. And always you heard the stories about the roadies and how they always slept around and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my God. And then, of course, the next morning we all got up, and I see all the girls walk out of the hotel rooms, the walk of shame. And I was just stunned. Again, I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And it was just like, wow. Second one, and hopefully that was appropriate for your podcast.
No, it's fine.
But it was
You're saying curse words, so I mean, if there's any age restriction worries, that was out the window a long time ago.
Okay. But again, it was very eye-opening to me. And it was just like, it's something I never experienced in my life. Even having been an addict during college, I never understood or saw that this perception of the mind of the male, especially of how they're going to take advantage of college girls, which was just wrong at the time. But yeah. Second one, I had just come back from an interview. It was a black tie event down in San Francisco. And I had just flown back, and I was still in my tux. And I got in the limo to go home. There was a limo that picked me up at the SeaTac airport to take me back to the apartment. And on the way, I'm watching the Oakland A's play someone, and then all of a sudden the screen went black. And this is a limo, TV in the limo. And I'm sitting there going, what the hell happened? What the hell happened? And the driver turns on the radio. He's like, do you want us to listen? I said, yeah. We turn on the radio. And it comes across, there was an earthquake in San Francisco. This is an earthquake when it hit. And, wiped everything out and killed all the people and stuff like that. And I remember sitting in the limo going, holy crap, I was just there.
Yeah, the World Series was going on, I believe.
What's that?
The World Series was going
on
that year.
Yes. It was Oakland A's or San Francisco Giants against, I think it was Oakland A's. But point being is that it was just like, what the hell happened? Why did it go off? This is the World Series. God, you got a great memory. You really did. You have an amazing memory to
Well,
remember.
yeah, I couldn't forget that because
Yeah, and I just remember the yeah, yeah. And so that was
89.
89, and I don't know what event I was coming back from. It was something that they asked me, can you fly down there today, take your tux? I said, sure, change there. We'll have a room for you. Go to the event, represent Nintendo, and then fly right back. I'm like, okay. And we landed, and then, you know. So, you know. So, you want another story? This is not Nintendo, though. This is me. This is me working out of Israel.
Okay.
It was 9/11/2001.
Okay.
And I was flying from Tel Aviv to Zurich and then Zurich to LA for a business trip to convince people to buy the USB flash drive. It was to meet with my marketing agency, my PR agency out of LA. So we take off from Zurich, and this was a 14-hour flight, and we aren't over Newfoundland yet. We're coming up on Newfoundland. You see, if you've ever flown internationally or nationally, there's a map of the United States.
Fly.
Yeah, and but there's maps of the world, and you know, very basic, like
right.
NES types, scale of clarity. You see the Newfoundland Island coming up. Point being is that I was tired because I'd flown from Tel Aviv to Zurich, and I was, 4 hours out of Europe, and I was napping, and I was sleeping, and all of a sudden I wake up, and everyone's standing, and there's everyone talking, and where I'm looking around, and I noticed that the sun was coming in on the left-hand windows, but now the sun's coming in on the right-hand windows, which means we turned around. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? And people are saying, we don't know. We don't know. The plane just turned around over the Atlantic Ocean. And so an hour later, the captain comes on the intercom and says, hey, everyone, just want to let you know there's been a terrorist attack in the United States. All flights are grounded. We're flying back. We're going to go to Geneva, Switzerland, and land there. I'm like, okay. So everyone on the plane, this was an L1011 TWA, L1011, and so there's 250 people, and this is the day when there were not phones at every seat. There were 2 phones in the galleys, front and back. And so 100 people jump on each phone, and they get in line, and they start trying to call the United States. For those of you that were alive back then, there was no way you could get through on the phone lines into New York, because we were flying to LA, but everyone wanted to find out what happened, and the phone lines were just dead. You couldn't get through to anyone, anywhere.
Right.
And so I decided to get into line. Now, as I was getting on the plane back in Zurich, I met a guy from South Africa, and he was speaking English, and he and I just talked while we were waiting in line to get on the plane, blah, blah, blah. Terrorist attack hits. We're in line. He is opposite me in the seats, waiting in line to get to the phones. We eventually get to the phones. We're the last people. Everyone else couldn't get through to anyone. We knew nothing. The captain kept coming on every 30 minutes. There's been a terrorist attack. We're going back to Geneva. We'll tell you more as soon as we know it. Not telling us what had been hit or anything like that. So I am 6 months into dating my current wife, my only wife, my wife. We had just met 5 months before, blind date, etc. She worked in the World Trade Center. And so I'm like, I need to call my girlfriend and see if she's still alive, what's going on. Because they did say there was an attack in New York and Washington, D.C. They just didn't, anything else.
Yeah.
So I'm calling her, and there's no answer. It's busy signal, because again, the big cell phone towers were on top of the World Trade Center that came down. And I turned, and the guy from South Africa is talking to someone, and I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" And he's like, "I called South Africa," and I'm like, "Fuck!" I hang up. I call my friends in Israel. I'm like, "What happened in America?" And they're like, "The Pentagon's gone." I'm like, "The Pentagon's gone?" He's like, "Yeah, they hit the Pentagon's gone." I'm like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "They also hit the World Trade Center. They're gone." I'm like, "What? They're gone?" I'm like, "They hit at 9:30 in the morning. That's 20,000 Pentagon, 50,000 people. That's 20,000 World Trade." He's like, "It's gone." And I'm like,
yeah, I saw it live on television that
morning. Yeah.
Before I went to work.
Okay.
I didn't stay at work all day either that
day.
They'd send us home.
Oh yeah, no, right. Yeah. And so he and I both hang up. We turn around, and all these people are standing there looking at us going, what's going on? And we're like, here's what we know. We are on Swiss Air. I'm sorry, not TWA, Swiss Air flight. We land in Geneva. Swiss Air is, I will fly Swiss Air the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. Swiss Air lands, we go to the gate. A guy walks on. He's like, "Hi, my name's blah, blah, blah. I'm a psychiatrist. There's been a horrible terrorist attack in America. Most of you are American. As you get off, you will walk down the gangplank, and it will split into two ways. If you go to the right, there will be TVs, and you can see the terrorist attack. If you go to the left, we have tables and stuff and seats with no TVs or anything like that. If you want to go there, if you have children you don't want to see. This has been a horrific attack, so choose where you want to go. So we get off. I went to the right. Like most of the Americans, like, what the hell really happened? And so now I'm like, oh my God, my girlfriend's dead. Now she worked in the World Trade Center, again, that was made of 9 buildings. She worked not in the 2 towers. She worked in one of the buildings right next to it. And so I'm like, so I'm calling and calling and calling, and I can't get through to her. And so eventually, this is back in the days. There were cell phones. They were much more expensive.
Yeah.
My cell phone's dead. And so the psychologist comes over. He's like, "What?" And he's like, "You look bothered." I'm like, "Yeah, I'd like to know if my girlfriend's alive or whatever." And he's like, "Here, give my cell phone." And I said, "All right." So I'm calling her cell phone, no answers. And I'm like, you know what? Let me call her home and leave a message on her. Back in the days, we had the answering machine. So he calls, like, "Hi, this is blah, 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 my girlfriend. I'll leave a message." So I leave a message. "Hey, are you okay?" or something. And I call every 10 minutes. He kept coming over, bringing his phone. About an hour and a half later, now this is probably 8 hours after the attack, 9 hours because we had just landed. I call her message. And this is a great lesson. This is why I'm telling you the story. This is a great lesson for people to think. Mm-hmm. "Hi, this is Blaine's girlfriend." Again, she has a name. I'm not going to give it to you. "I am okay. I made it through the attack. I am currently walking out of the city. Please leave a message." And I'm like, oh my God, I got to marry this woman. Like, she's so fucking smart. And so I was like, yeah. So she walked out. She's one of those people you see that covered in ash that were coming out of the debris and stuff. I was like, this is amazing. So I sat there for the next 7 days until the airspace was cleared in my hotel room in Geneva, Switzerland. Not sightseeing. I just could not leave the TV and just watch this destruction the whole time. So then, yeah, we let up, and then I flew into New York and met my girlfriend. Then I went on to LA and did the business. But yeah,
did you marry her or
I did.
You did.
She's sleeping in the next room. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, on a positive note, we will wrap this up.
Right.
But I will plug your book, Perception is Reality, Abridged.
Yep.
It's only $10. It's an ebook.
Yeah, it's 10 cents more than the cost or whatever. I just rounded it up. It's like, I'm not here to make money. It's just, yeah. And I updated it 2 years ago, and I'm currently updating it again for the 4th edition. Just some stuff.
So you have four editions of this. Yeah.
It's just, again, marketing and business sense that I picked up over life, and how we treat people, and how we should treat our employees, and how we expect and we should be treated, all that kind of stuff. Thank you so much for pitching this.
And you can get it where you go to, let me throw that. Oh, crap. No, I just, where is it? Here it is.
Yeah.
X-Brand Communications. Go to that page.
X-Brand
Then you click the link up top that says Perception is Reality, and then it'll take you to lulu.com, the shop page, and the link to that particular book.
This is just fun stuff I do. I like writing.
It's not on Amazon, by the way, right?
No,
you have to go to lulu.com.
Yep.
All right.
My friends download and throw it on their Kindle, or people that I meet and stuff like that, and just read it it's just stories of my life, of shit that's happened. Not, again, all marketing and business sense, not Nintendo specific or anything like that. Just stuff I've learned.
Well, you're also on LinkedIn, and that's how I was able to communicate with you. But you can plug that if you want. You have to have an account, though.
Yeah. In LinkedIn?
Yeah.
No. Well, yeah, to see people, yes, but you don't have to pay or anything like that. It's just sign up.
No, I just had to sign up. It's linkedin.com/in/world marketer.
Yep. That tells you how soon. That tells you how early I became a LinkedIn member, to have World Marketer as my name, because it's people have written me saying, "Hey, can I have it?" And I'm like, "No." It's like, yeah, it's one of those few names that everyone wants. But yeah.
All right, Blaine. Any future goals you want to? Any future goals?
No. I'm a life coach, business coach. If you have a business or life that you want coaching on, reach out. Xbrand.biz. You can reach me through there. But otherwise, no. Just God bless and be safe out there, man. Just live your life. That's all I got to say.
All right. All right, Blaine Phelps. Thank you for coming on, and it's been a time warp.
I hope so. I hope I was able to. You jogged a lot of memories of me. I hope I helped you remember some stuff and learn some things about Nintendo that you never knew.
Yes, and I might come back. I may reach out to you again and ask some more
Please
questions
do.
about
Please.
things that I may not have thought of today. But
Okay. I'd love to. I'll answer anything you got, just like I did with anyone else that's interested in Nintendo. It's a great history.
all right, Blaine, thank you
All right.
very much.
You betcha.
Hope, I hope to see you around the arcade soon. Maybe you can make a trip up to Galloping Ghost Arcade, or maybe I don't know if they do another induction of the International Video Game Hall of Fame.
You know,
I'm still trying to get in it.
well, yeah, you should be able to.
I know some other Nintendo champions did make it in.
Yeah, you got the credentials.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right. Have a good night.
All right. Yep. You too. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye. That was Blaine Phelps, the gentleman who brought us the Nintendo Campus Challenge, the classic Nintendo tournaments, and other. And this cat is trying to take over the desk at this moment. Oh, you little stinker! I'm going to put you back on the floor. Stay there. Anyway. Anyway, let me got a couple of slides I want to throw up here before we get out of here, and I got to get this back up on the screen. And then after this, I got to go find out what the heck is going on because there seems to be more drama going on. What a shocker. Anyway, KC Retro, I'm wanting to go to this. I couldn't go last year. I'm going to try to go there this year out in Kansas City. This is kind of I was trying to figure out how big of this convention was compared where it was in relation to other game cons like Illinois Game Con and the Como Retro Gaming Convention. But I had to travel out west. I can't say that I've gone to Kansas City too many times, maybe once. But I think I want to head out there this year since I have pretty much a free weekend to check out the game con, check out a different game con, maybe sign my trading card for a whole slew of people. And I know Nintendo Land Men's is going, so maybe I think I'll make it out there. We'll see. The Pinball Expo, October 15th through the 18th, that's coming. And looks like I'm only going to be able to go Thursday and Friday this year. I've been asked to go to a Comic-Con that Saturday, the 18th of October to film. So we'll see how that turns out. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to promote my podcast somewhere. Anyway, another update. So this doesn't seem to want to end. And Carl Jobs put out a new video, and I listened to the whole thing, and I don't think he's. Here we go. Here we go again with this. You know, Billy Mitchell beat him in court. I don't think Carl is not going to change his stripes. I think he's and now he's going after Tony Guru over his videos and comments he made about his analysis, his legal analysis of Carl Jobs, and Jobs is kind of falling in the same pattern that got him in trouble with Billy Mitchell. So we'll see where that goes. New house highs, world records at the Galloping Ghost Arcade. This isn't everything, but this is this is quite most of it. JP Pitts, as of, I believe today or yesterday, ran up the score further on Power Stone 2, breaking 250,000. I had Do Run Run yesterday. I broke 400K on it and submitted that score, but Andrew went back on it and beat that score today. So back to square one. That was the only score I was able to get throughout my time up there. Chris Bulcher set a new high on Spinal Breakers, breaking the 2.4 million mark. That was part of T20, but that was not set during T20. That was after. Ben Falls, the new Gamer of the Year, takes the house high on Mario Bros. And gets the kill screen. That's some awesome. And he also took Sky Skipper, as I mentioned earlier, saying a score much higher than anything that's been previously documented. Yeah, I'm taking a hit. I'm taking the hits on this. Good grief. David Schultz also took 2 of the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom tracks for the arcade game. Robert Vale took the house high at Street Fighter EX2, breaking 1.7 million. Silent Hill has been pulled from the arcade floor at Galloping Ghost. We don't know if it will return. The problem with it was that gamers were breaking the guns, and that was a problem. I don't know why they were targeting that game for damage, but they replaced the monitor. They replaced the projection screen TV with a 39-inch monitor, and it looks better than ever. It's gonna have to be a special request to play that one. But John Liming took the world record on that one over the T20 weekend. Shinryu was one of the game's new releases. It's not on the arcade floor yet, but Jacob Grimm took that score, and besides getting second place overall in T20 and doing the Rhythm Tournament, we'll cover some of that next week. Thunder Blaster Zerst, the former 2-time Gamer of the Year, took that score. Eric Pearl maxed out Marble Man, which was a recent newer release. And then Larry Brock took Quarth during T20. And to chase the tokens, we're beginning. This is the power rankings, and this is the beginning of the 16th season of the Galloping Ghost Arcade, and we're off to the races. And Ben Falls moves up to 14th by taking that Sky Skipper score. Yes. And somehow I'm barely hanging on to 10th, but I don't know for how much longer. I'm going to have to get back up there. And somebody is begging me to head back to Galloping Ghost Arcade as soon as this weekend, so we'll have to see. I had other ideas, but seems like everybody's demanding my time of late, and it's just getting to be a major burden. So, next week, same times, 7 p.m. Central, Carlton Linden, the Wizard of Questiny. He's going to be releasing a documentary on his visit to the Galloping Ghost Arcade as he chases the Violent Storm score. And if you've been on his Twitch channel, holy crap. Yeah, his setup is way, way more than I can handle. So we're going to have him on next week here on the Crimeycade podcast. And that will do it for this edition of the Crimeycade. I am going to raid a channel. I'll tell you who I'm going to raid in a second. I got to pull one up. Let's see. Who are we going to raid tonight? Let's pick somebody. Oh, who do I want to raid? Let's raid Lick Arcade. He is, I don't know how much longer he's going to go, but he's playing Shinobi 3. So let's give him the raid tonight. Until next time, I am the Mad Conservative Crime Fighter, and we'll see you around next week. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about T20 because I gone 3 hours and I wanted to get some of that in, but I think I'll save it for next week because, there's been all sorts of crap happening and I need to chill for a bit. So I'll see you next time, and have a good night, everybody.